Go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Electric Underground Podcast Videocast Edition. Joining me on the microphone is Boghog, a growing guest of the channel and also the developer of Mechanical Star Astra and the upcoming Gunvien, which is badass. Welcome, my dude.
Thank you. Oh, shucks. Thank you.
And then also joining me, a growing popular guest on the channel as well. And I've been on his channel in his Shmup Kumites. So if you haven't watched those, by damn, go watch them and watch me just dominate the competition. Aktane, welcome to the channel.
Hey, thanks for having me again, Mark. And yeah, you're welcome anytime. You crushed it on both of them. Those are some hard games too. We're throwing at you since you're a Dodonpachi 2-aller. So we won't give you any of the easy stuff. You don't have it easy on the Kumites.
I know, and it's crazy how there's always those hidden beasts in those Kumites that, like Wabby? I'd never even met Wabby before, and he's absolutely destroying the games. And who the hell's Wabby? I don't know, but he's hella good.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And then Baff on the rolling gunner, just like casually
I've seen Baff around
annihilating stuff.
Yeah,
I know.
You got those hermits, descending from the mountains.
Yeah, I think Wabby's younger too, and these damn shmup kids, and they're so freaking good.
Yeah,
it drives me crazy.
The zoomers, man, it's scary. Scary shit.
Well, today we have a topic that I think people have been looking forward to. I've been trying to cover the game on the channel, but due to technical difficulties and also sort of my own schedule, it's been difficult. So I thought, why don't I come up with a fun concept here, and we have a bit of a debate. And I say bit because this isn't like debate class where you have to pretend that you don't agree just to win points or whatever.
I don't know how much we'll even disagree, honestly.
We're allowed to change our positions on the topic mid-debate, right? Okay, perfect.
And the topic is, of course, the great Elden Ring debate. Is it overhyped? Is it good? Is it bad? What's going on here? And from my understanding, in the more critical side of the argument, we have Boghog weighing in.
Oh, yeah.
And then as the apologist, or attempting apologist, is Aktane. And I will be sort of the moderator, and I'll be backing up whoever I think needs a little bit of a backup, or whoever sways me or whatever. So I'll try to be the impartial person.
Wait, that's a little bit different. You're gonna help the loser or back up the winner.
Oh, sorry. I guess I should explain my personality. Where if I ever sense that one direction of a conversation in a room is getting too strong, I always hop over to the other side. That's just my personality, even in real life.
Mark is no, it's not contrarian. He's about balance. Mark is a
exactly balancer. It. That's exactly
he walks
it.
in, and if Auntie Frida's just dominating the conversation, he takes her down a peg and then goes to Uncle John and says, "What do you have to say on the topic?"
That's exactly right. And kids in high school could never quite pin me down. We'd go into seminary class and we'd be talking about this and that, and I'd be like, "Hey, some people want to do this or that." And then we'd go to a party, and all of a sudden I'd be like, "Hey, bros, maybe we should calm it down here a bit." So that's right. I'm a balancing force. I like that description. So let's get a little bit of a start off with your guys' experience with the Elden Dark Souls Ring trilogy, whatever the hell this is, franchise.
Soulsborne Ring.
Yes, whatever this is. What's your background? Let's start with you, Bog.
I started playing Dark Souls I started playing the Souls series when the first Dark Souls came out, and played 3 of the Dark Souls games, played Sekiro, and now played Elden Ring. I also played a bit of Demon Souls, but I didn't finish it, and I haven't played Bloodborne, so that's basically it. I really liked Dark Souls 1, especially the first half. Later on, kind of fell off, but Dark Souls 2 was a little bit disappointing, but has great DLC. Dark Souls 3 I thought was kind of forgettable overall. And Sekiro was awesome, although kind of shallow,
And so I wanted to ask, what was your sort of impression when Dark Souls was coming out? Because I think it's been one of those franchises that has grown over the years, where I remember when it came out, it was a little bit like kind of like a cool kids club. Oh, you play Dark Souls? Oh, that's cool. And then the hipster kids are like, oh, Dark Souls is the greatest game ever made. It's so hard. Your eyes will bleed. You'll die if you even try to play it. People have passed away at the controller trying to beat these bosses. And, and the legend of Dark Souls has grown and grown over the years. And Bloodborne's the greatest game of all time, and so on and so forth. So what were your sort of initial feelings towards the franchise outside of all the hype?
it had like a mystique to it, you know, because you hear like, oh, dude, Dark Souls is the greatest game. It has such rich lore. It's really obscure, and you go into it. One of the things that kind of messed me up is there's in Dark Souls 1, there's like a split path at the beginning. There's a graveyard, and there's the area where you actually want to go. And I went to the graveyard. Like, okay, people say this.
So did I.
People say this game is super hard, you know. And I went to the graveyard and got absolutely demolished because there's like these high level skeletons. I'm like, okay, well, I guess this game is pretty hard, but you know, then I figured out where to actually go. So that kind of messed me up. It was kind of like a niche thing. It was kind of like one of those obscure Japanese RPGs, like, you know, like I don't know, Brandish.
Yeah,
I remember there was a lot of overlap between like Falcom fans and the people who like Dark Souls back in the day.
And weren't their claim to fame up to that point? Like, what's that? Tenchu or whatever. Like, wasn't that their big claim up to that point?
Tenchu series? No, I think it was developed. I don't remember exactly, but I think originally the games were developed by a different developer. But then like From took it took over it at some point and made like 1 or 2 games on the PS3.
Would you say Armored Core? Armored Core was what they were known for?
Armored Core.
Okay.
And among RPG fans, they also released Kingsfield, which is like the prototype for.
So how about you, Aktane? How did you get into the series? What were your thoughts coming into it?
I didn't even know there was a Japanese developer. First of all, no idea. I was in college, and I remember when Dark Souls 1 first came out, and it was like, maybe not first came out, but first started to gain steam. Because by the time I bought it, it had probably been out for several months. But I remember the front cover and the Prepare to Die. And I remember a buddy who was like huge into Demon Souls was just like, dude, this is the Demon Souls sequel, man. This is like, it's gonna be fucking rad, dude. And I was just like, well, what's the kind of hook here? And he's like, game's super hard. I don't know, you're not gonna get past the first level. And I was like, okay, I'll buy it and see if I can get past the first level. Did the same exact thing as Boghog, went into the fucking like graveyard area, and like I played that graveyard for 5 to 10 hours. I even got further past the skeletons and down because I started to just run past them.
Oh yeah, and there's a wall.
Maybe the dev doesn't want me to run past them, and I got into the catacombs. And I came out of that experience and people were like, dude, is it hard? I'm like, it's beyond hard. Like, it's literally impossible. And then eventually when I circled back around, I started to go up and around that corner up to the castle, and the game was like chill compared to what I just experienced. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started to really get into like trying to understand it. But I played Dark Souls 1 with no online connection by myself, didn't use the internet at all. Probably took me 100 hours or something to beat it.
Wow.
I spent hours and hours just messing around with weapons. I mean, I thought it was supposed to be an RPG, so like I bought like the first merchant that's there, tiny spoilers, in Dark Souls 1 at the bottom. I went down there and I grinded money and I bought a bunch of arrows and I was like, I need to get a bow, right? And like I just didn't get it. Like it didn't make sense to me what I was supposed to be doing. So I wasted souls on anything you could imagine that is.
Did you get cursed? Did you get cursed? That's the big question.
By the ghosts when you go down?
No. By the basilisks in the sewers.
Probably.
Where you get like half health and you got to go back to the merchant to restore your health.
Oh yeah. I remember that. Yeah. All that happened. I mean, every boss took me. I mean, I was shitty at video games during that time. Like I wasn't like an amazing gamer. I'm still not an amazing gamer, but it was like one of those things that because once you understood the punishment of the game, it was like, I have 0 souls, I can go in this direction, and if I die, I die, and if I get to the next bonfire, it's great. And then, that's it. Like, so, it was one of those things that was just like, turn on and try to get to the next level, But yeah, so I will say like, all right, my ranking is, I would say Dark Souls 3 is very high for me, probably the top or close to it. Tied with Bloodborne. I would say underneath that, Dark Souls 1, then underneath that, Dark Souls 2, which I only played for about 10, 15 hours and just absolutely hated. And this
everyone hates that one.
Now I can explain that.
I played it. Well, see, maybe I'll weigh in on my little agnosticism of Dark Souls.
I don't hate Dark Souls 2 either.
I don't know what it is, but maybe because I don't play RPGs, that's probably it. But over the years, like if you ticked up all the boxes that Dark Souls checks, it would seem like I would end up a big Dark Souls fan. But the problem is, every time I play Dark Souls games, and I purchased them all and played them all for about 5 hours, and then about the 5-hour mark is when like the RPG fatigue starts kicking in, and then I just play Ninja Gaiden every time. I'm like, let's just play Ninja Gaiden. How about that? So that's been my experience with every single Dark Souls, Elden Ring as well. But Elden Ring has some other issues beyond just the gameplay, why I couldn't keep playing. But so yeah, I played Demon Souls when that first came out, and that one I think I probably played the most because isn't it sort of the most straightforward, and you just fight stuff.
It's level based.
Yeah, I don't know. Yes, let's do this shit. And then Dark Souls, I thought Dark Souls was open world because I remember just wandering around for hours, like, where the fuck do I go? Well, what the fuck?
Something relevant, right, at the time, because one of the big things that people praise Dark Souls 1 for is that it was an open world, but in a way that wasn't like generic. It wasn't like Skyrim where you had like a big flat plane where you can go anywhere. It didn't matter where you go. It was like really structured. There were like these little levels, but they connected in interesting ways. You had to be clever to sequence break. It was like a Metroidvania in that sense, but a really well designed one.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty important because I remember people mentioning it to me all the time because before I got into the game, go, dude, this is like open world, but not the one you're used to.
And I think this is a good segue to some extent to the next topic, but I want to kind of preempt it as saying, like, when you say, Mark, you're not an RPG gamer, and like I would say I wasn't really either. I mean, it's not like I played I didn't have patience for Final Fantasy games. Yes, I played 7 through completion as a kid because I thought it looked cool and all that kind of shit.
And it's required if you're a millennial. It's
required.
It was required. You go to school and they're like, hey, before we give you your degree to go home, you need to beat FF7 first.
It was required reading for us, okay? Don't hold that against me. But like, I didn't beat 8 or 9. I did, I think, beat 10. But the point I'm trying to get at is, if you were an action RPG fan, I'm not talking about the Final Fantasy series. I'm talking about Morrowind, Oblivion, these kind of games, right? Which I would consider to be, like you mentioned Skyrim, Boghog, which I think is a very important part of this next piece of the discussion, which is your expectations for a video game. See, I don't really like Oblivion and Skyrim and stuff for the basic reason, not necessarily that it's too big. It is too big, but that's not the point. The point is that the combat feels like ass. It just feels
absolutely
like shit. Like it just feels like shit. Like it's not like it's not so far removed from like rolling a dice to me. And it's better. It's better than clicking like Final Fantasy fight and then slash, but it's not that much better.
Right.
I honestly prefer Final Fantasy. I honestly, especially it's like Oblivion and Skyrim, because at least like sometimes there's some bosses you got to match the elements, you got to come up with like a plan, but you just come up with a simple kind of game plan and just repeat it over and over and over, or to like stand on a rock where enemies can't reach you because their pathfinding sucks.
Absolutely. And like when I first experienced Dark Souls 1, this is important to my history of why I like the series, the combat was actually really good. Like not just good, but like beyond good, and like experimenting. Like I probably spent 40 hours in the first game picking 10 different weapons and messing with their movesets and trying to see if they would work or not work, and specking in the wrong direction and ruining my build because I wasn't a min-maxer either. I'm still not. I can't min-max. Like I'm just like, I want to experience most of the game. I don't want to experience a tiny sliver of the game.
Yeah.
So like I'll play around, and I learned as you get through the Souls series, you learn and you grow. But the point of the matter is the reason that the game hooked onto me is that the like moment to moment gameplay, even just fighting the lazy dudes in the beginning of the castle who just have spears and shields and stuff, always felt so impactful and good and weighty.
Yeah.
And
it does have nice juicy hit stun. That's for sure. So let's get the reading. Okay, so on the meter of character action or RPG coming into it, how much of a fan or view of each of the genre? For me, I'm like 100% character action. Whenever I play Souls-like games, I always try to minimize the RPG elements as much as possible or ignore them. Sometimes to my own pain and suffering, but that's how I like to do it. Bog, where would you kind of place yourself? Are you aware of the RPG stuff? Is that big for you? Or are you more on the character action side?
Nah, I'm well, it depends. Like for example, the combat, I'm pretty much completely in. The way I played Elden Ring was basically a simple claymore with no enchantments or like I didn't imbue it with anything. Simple armor, just like mid roll, and that's it. No spells, nothing. I played all the Dark Souls games games like that. But what I do enjoy is the sequence breaking. So that's kind of like an RPG-ish element I really like. So that's one of my favorite part of Dark Souls 1, where you can kind of like bypass the intended order to fight so many bosses at the beginning, but not just because you've chosen to go in a different direction, but because you're actually clever with how the game dishes out items and stuff, the routes.
Yeah, for example, I was watching.
I think, yeah.
Oh, I was watching boss tutorials, and you kind of can get two different types of boss tutorials for Dark Souls types games, where you either get the dude who learned how to dodge every single attack, and he's like naked and he's got a sword, and he's like, okay, if you stand on here, this frame here, and you roll here, you can get the slice off here. See, that's the kind of boss fights that I like to do. Or then you watch the guy who's like, if you equipped the magic stone and you put it on the Wonder Bra and you combine them together, that will ultra stun the boss and the boss will die. You know, so
my friend keeps giving me shit for it. He's like, "Oh, well, dude, you're complaining how difficult it is, but you're not even using the mechanics." All right, dude. I mean, it does feel sometimes like, especially in Elden Ring, it feels like I'm kind of being an idiot by sticking to a really stubborn build.
Well, I know, and I think your friend's right, of course, because it's the same comment of like me saying Dodonpachi is hard and someone saying you're not bombing, right? And it's like, like, you know what I mean, to some extent. But on the other side of it, I think, you know, when you think about, like, Mark, you're kind of thinking about it as like stats versus agility, or rather positioning or whatever, like gameplay and like raw gameplay, right? Can you overcome stats with raw gameplay?
Exactly.
And I think like, did either of you play Symphony of the Night by any chance?
Yeah. Played it.
All right. Do you general feel like the game? Kind of think it's okay?
I think I like Rondo of Blood a lot more, and I think I know where you're leading the witness. You know, and I know where you're going here.
You know where I'm going.
Because I hate the stupid RPG mechanics of Symphony of the Night. I'm like, get this bullshit out of here. Let's just slash shit and run around.
I feel like there's a great game in there, but it just fucking lacks difficulty and like a good enemy. Because my favorite Castlevanias are Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia, because they both have hard modes where you actually have to use all those RPG mechanics really cleverly. Like, for example, you have to match the elements to maximize damage. You gotta be mindful of your positioning, figure out which spells to use where. You also have to manage your hearts or mana as well. It's really interesting. Symphony is like that. Like, it has all the tools for it, but it just lacks difficulty and good enemy design.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I think difficulty is going to make a pretty big presence in our conversation, because it's going to be an important part, I think, of these games. You know, like you said, Mark, when the game, you know, and Bog, when the game first came out, Dark Souls 1 or that whole series, it was all about this game is super hard. Like, it's for the people who want
Dark
hard
Souls
games.
Dark Souls.
They yes, exactly. They marketed it that way, right? And difficulty is got to be an important part of these games, just because of the marketing and because of what they're asking the consumer to buy. I think that changed as the series has went on, and I think like they broadened the different things. They broadened the difficulty, because here's the thing, guys. Like, Dark Souls doesn't have easy, medium, hard, right?
Yeah.
You don't load up the game and say, I'm going to play on easy.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't exist. Easy is defined by you, the player, on what you want to do. Or do you want to like sit in a section and just grind souls all day and just like put on a podcast? Or do you want to like, because I never did that. I can't grind. Here's my stake in the ground for RPGs. I can't play JRPGs because they want you to sit in a section and do the same thing so that you can be powerful enough for the next section, and I refuse. I will just fight that boss at the least amount of power over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Case in point, Crucible Knight in Elden Ring. I actually made a video about it and put it on YouTube because
I love that boss.
Because the boss literally was like, you have to do this one thing. Fuck your build. Your build is irrelevant.
Know what that one is, yeah.
Yeah, he's a tough one.
You know, so yeah, you know, so it's like one of those things of just like the difficulty of these games, Dark Souls in general, to some extent, I think, is going to vary based on your build and a particular boss that you're fighting. And I think that's a more elegant way to do it than to say like, well, there's got to be a specific answer where this is the Sekiro end, right? You've almost got like Dark Souls 3 on one side, you both don't like it, and you've got Sekiro on the other side. I'm sure you guys are like,
I like Dark
Sekiro,
Souls. No, I don't like Sekiro, actually.
Yeah, Mark doesn't.
I'm probably the biggest Sekiro hater of all time.
Stop the train.
I think the level design of that. I like the combat a lot, but the level design I hate. I hate the stupid let's be Spider-Man and Spider-Man half of the game, and you're just whipping on all the things and just climbing. Because, for instance, I played 5 hours of Sekiro where I went through on my foot and I fought fought everyone. Then I realized I'm wasting all of my time. I can just rappel over every single person and it makes no difference. And I don't like the level design of that game. It drives me nuts. I would love Sekiro if they just took all the combat and like made a boss rush and you just fought everything one after another. But I do not like the level design and the let's, be Spider-Man stuff. I don't like any of that.
I feel like all these games would be better that way, to be honest. Except Dark Souls.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the. I think it's Boghog and Mark versus Octane for sure. Because
that's
it's gonna be because the thing is like a lot of my
not an Elden Ring. I'm here to be the moderator for Elden Ring, but Sekiro's on the hit list.
Let's see. So I'll answer this question first, and then Bog, I can let you go on this. So like, as a fan, I saw the first Elden Ring. Like the first gameplay where they showed the horse or whatever, right? And the horse was like double jumping and shit and like going 87,000 feet in the air. And they saw a guy walking around getting herbs from the environment or whatever the fuck, like craftables. And I was like, I'm going to hate this game. I literally went around telling everyone, fuck this game. This game's going to be shit. Fucking open world. If you want me to pick up anything from the open world, like, and it's like random herbs or whatever, just don't give me just put your game directly into the trash can. I don't want to play it like at all. Like that's what I initially thought, and I was like, oh my god, because Ghost of Tsushima could have been a good game, but it's ass because it's just that like I don't want to craft anything.
Me neither.
I don't want to craft.
Get that shit out of here.
I call them klepto-core games. Like
I don't
for
mind
kleptomaniacs.
I don't.
Yeah, my friend who used to steal everywhere he went, he loved that shit. He crafts all day long.
So I was like anti-hype. I was literally like, I'm not hyped for this at all. This better be good. Like you're giving me open world. I like in Dark Souls 1 and 3 in particular. And Bloodborne is amazing at this. The like spaghetti level design of like, I'm back where I started, and like all that shit is like delicious. And like what you said, Boghog, was perfect in that. I've always thought that Dark Souls 1 is Castlevania evolved. It's like Castlevania brought into 3D the appropriate
Wait, did I say that?
No. You said Symphony of the Night was not what you wanted out of it. I'm telling you, this is the right sequel to Symphony of the Night. If you want Symphony of the Night in 3D, play Dark Souls.
Yeah,
it is exactly that.
It also has some interesting parallels to old school Castlevania in the combat because it's not really execution heavy. It's pretty slow. It's like methodical, and once you figure out how to dodge, how to like kill an enemy or dodge an attack, you pretty much can do it every time because it's not really demanding. I think it's really addictive because it makes the combat kind of puzzle like. People know where they messed up and they know how to fix it immediately because there's no nothing complicated going on.
And I would agree, too, because when I did my Rondo of Blood video, thing about Castlevania that I think makes it stand out as an action 2D platformer, whatever you want to call it, is the massive wind-up and the massive sort of recovery on your attacks, but they're so hefty. You hit something, it feels like you hit them with a ton of bricks, but it takes an hour to get
There's like a rhythm to it,
Yeah.
You hit something, it dies in one hit, and you can kind of like...
yeah.
There's a really satisfying flow to it.
The Dark Souls series are like that a lot. Like the wind-ups are massive. The recoveries are hours long, it feels like. But when you hit something, it feels like you really smack the shit out of it. So I could definitely see the connection there for sure in the combat.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Boghog? Did you, when you watched the videos, like when like Elden Ring was first getting hyped and you saw like gameplay footage, were you like sitting where I'm sitting, where you're like, oh my god, they're gonna ruin the series, I'm gonna hate this game, or where were you at with it?
Actually, I don't think I thought anything of it. I was just like, oh, okay, well, we'll see how it goes.
Typical game dev.
Unacceptable answer.
Way too wise. Absolutely unacceptable answer. You're right.
Spice it up.
The only interesting thing was like really late trailers because it started giving me like a Dark Souls 2 vibe where it's like, okay, so this is what Dark Souls 2 should have been. This is what they originally wanted to do. But other than that, I wasn't really expecting much. I was like, okay, maybe we'll see.
I think I have the best answer, which is I kept confusing it with that Wii Fit game. Like, isn't there a Wii Fit ring game or something? So people kept saying, yo, you hyped for Elden Ring? I'm like, you all are into fitness. I don't know why you guys are so excited for this fitness game.
Wait, can I answer this? Because I'm going to out myself here, and I don't know, everyone's going to make fun of me, but I don't care.
Okay, prepare yourself for the comment section.
Prepare. Get your like keyboards out and get ready, because just go ahead. It's burn me at the stake, because it's gonna happen. And by the way, Mark, you're gonna like this. We have Ring Fit.
Hell yeah!
My wife loves Ring Fit. Ring Fit's fucking amazing. All that shit. Blah blah blah. I started playing some Ring Fit, and guess what happened? I was not paying attention to the RPG elements, and I sold all my smoothie ingredients because I thought I need the gold to buy new gear, but I didn't have enough gold to buy new gear, and I went to the next level, and this is a fitness game, guys. I have to fucking run in place and fucking do... And I couldn't beat the boss because the boss even if I'm full ab strength, and I block, I do like full block, the boss still takes life away, and I didn't have the smoothies. So I literally had to play a level 3-4 times, and I still didn't have enough gold to like RPG my way through it. And the whole time I'm screaming at the game, I just want to work out. I don't give a fuck. Like, what the fuck? I don't give a fuck about the fucking fuck. Like, dude. And so my wife, I got filtered by Ring Fit RPG elements. I got filtered. Now I have to make
the Dark Souls of fitness games, man.
Now I have to make custom workout playlists. I'm so mad.
So I was pretty disappointed that Elden Ring didn't have any fitness elements into it, but I actually didn't. I legitimately confused it with that fitness game until about a month before it came out.
That plays it on a Stepmania mat, and she beat the entire thing, streamed, then beat the entire thing on a Stepmania mat.
Nice.
There's always those streamers have been around for too long. I think they have a little cabal. I think they have. They meet in person.
Like the Beatmania, Stepmania mafia.
They have they have like hoods, and like they meet underground underneath an overpass, and they're just like, okay, the next Souls game is coming out. Does everyone have their Stepmania pads? Okay, who's gonna do the streaming? We gotta split the revenue. Can we start training now?
It's like that American Psycho card scene, but with the mats, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Custom.
So, all right. So, fast forward, Boghog. You thought you were like, oh, whatever, another video game. I'm a dev. I know better.
Yeah, and I thought it was a fitness game.
Yeah, whatever,
dude. I thought it was a fitness game. You were like, I'm too good. I'm too good to judge.
Yeah. He's like working on Gunvien or something or whatever he's up to.
Boghog was like
kind of professional type stuff,
doing real work for real.
Yeah, of course.
Lame.
So then, what happened when you got the game?
I'm completely blanking out.
I have the Discord logs. I'll Bog right here. He was feeling it when it came out. He was loving it.
Oh, you mean when I started playing it? Yeah. I was actually
when you
really
got the game.
It.
Like, so you had no hype.
Yeah, it was
and
almost
you got the game in your hand.
It was almost like a mandatory thing. I'm like, okay, everyone's gonna fucking play it. Everyone's gonna talk about it for the next half a year. I gotta at least check it out, you know?
Exactly.
And I also played all the other Souls games. You know, I'm not gonna like completely hate it. Probably that's what I thought. Yeah, and initially it was...
Put it on the back of the box. I'm not going to completely hate this game. You're not going to completely hate this game, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Everyone's going to talk about it. Just buy it, you dumb bitch.
Yeah, but then the first hours, like, oh god, this is great. Because like it felt like they were starting to realize like the issues that started popping up in Dark Souls 3 and fixing them one by one. Like the combat. You know, how in Dark Souls 1 it kind of got too R1 spammy, and the bosses started getting too string heavy at that point, though not nearly as string heavy as in Elden Ring. And what Elden Ring did that I found was really interesting, it added a jump, which you can actually use to jump over ground pound attacks. Yeah, it can then...
I always forget the jump.
Yeah, jump attacks also let you crouch, which actually lets you bypass like high attacks. And I was like, oh shit, this is like kind of like a Sekiro type of thing where bosses have several moves and you can punish them in different ways. That's what that's initially it kind of was like that. Like when you fight those first few bosses, that's exactly how it is. And of course, they made the stamina, like the boss poise stamina thing more prominent. So it was like cool because now it encourages aggression. Now if you punish every single move, they stack and give you a nice crit. So that was really exciting. I was like, oh damn, they're really making some positive changes here.
What were your initial thoughts, Aktane?
So that like first cave, and then I don't remember that much, but I remember like coming out of the cave, seeing the open world, and being like, okay, let's see what happens here, because you don't have your horse at that time, right?
Yeah.
And then you walk
kidding.
out, and the first dude that you see is that dude on the horse.
Yes, I remember that guy.
Like, you just walk straight. Yeah, that guy kicked my dick in. Pretty hard, and then I tried to fight him like 2 more times, and then I was just like, I can't fight this guy, so I kind of
ran away.
I got excited because that guy kicked my ass. He was the first quote unquote boss that I saw. He had a boss bar, so I like for the henceforth in this discussion, when I am referencing a boss, it has to be someone with a boss bar and a name. Everyone else is not a boss, but everything that has to me everything that has a giant red boss bar and a name is a boss.
Yeah.
That's just how I define bosses in these games. But I was like, this guy has a red bar. He's in the open world. He's right there, and he's kicking my ass. And I have to I have to start playing. Like, I have to figure this out. But I also noted that there were a million different places to go, and that kind of gave me a pretty big ton of anxiety of just like, well, I don't know where to go. But I was excited about like exploring this world and trying to figure out how to get this fucking horse, especially.
Yeah.
And then I got the horse, and then I used the horse very, very cheesily, extreme fromage, like as much cheese as possible. Just like put it on my omelet, like to beat that fucking horse asshole that beat me up earlier by just running around and like double jumping with the horse and using and like learning. It still was hard to me. It took me like 10 tries to beat that guy or whatever. But along the way, I noticed some of the things that Boghog that you noticed, but I also noticed like I noticed the new movesets, like the crouching attacks, some of the new jumping attacks.
Charge attacks as well, yeah.
Charge attacks, horse attacks. And I was as excited as you because I was like, I'll tell you, I was excited, but I'd had a very big issue in my first 4 hours of the game. I feel like it eats inputs. Now, I'm playing on Xbox One X, not a Series X, just a One X, but my One X kicks ass still. And like, I am playing the game in 4K or whatever, 30 frames per second. But I don't ever remember, even in 3 or 1, Dark Souls 1, to have like hit the button, like feel myself hit the button and nothing happens. Not like late, not like an input buffer where it's like I was doing something and then, but just like a missed input completely.
Was this on the horse? Was this the most common on the horse? I felt that way when I was attacking on the horse, but usually the issue is the input buffer. It's such a massive buffer. It's
oh my god, the input buffer is like an hour long. It is so huge.
It's an hour long. But
it's
that's
the biggest input buffer I've ever seen.
Yeah,
but that's like, that makes me feel worse about it, because it's like a lot of times in the old games you can hit B, go have a sandwich, and then when your guy's done, he will do a dodge roll, right?
Yep.
Like in this game, I would hit B like 3 times, and he would literally be staying there. You can see it in my Crucible Night video.
Oh,
if you ever see
that happened to me a few times too, now that you mention it.
Doing nothing, it's because I hit parry and or dodge, and the game decided, nah, you don't need those. Just get hit.
I thought that was actually my wireless gamepad malfunction. I didn't know how much
of us are having this issue. I think it's an actual issue.
Because I wasn't sure. I had like where I swore I dodged and my dude just didn't do anything. But I thought like it's probably my wireless gamepad acting up, so I couldn't really tell too well.
Well, for me, I was playing it in literally 480p, I think, on my computer. With graphics. Yeah, I have my whole bit about this.
There's a
with
story
graphics,
to that.
Were you playing on CRT?
Yes.
And I even without a CRT though, I had to do it because so I bought the game on PC, and I have a pretty decent gaming PC, a pretty good one. I was not prepared. I was not prepared for what I was about to experience. And this is about half of my experience with Elden Ring, is not playing it, but fighting with Steam refunds, trying to refund the game on PC, because it was holy shit. So it ran like absolute hell. I was getting all of these crazy like visual issues and stuff. So I dropped it down to literally 480p. I turned all of the graphic enhancements off and everything. It became a PS2 game, which is kind of funny. If you do all that, it turns into a PS2 game. But at least I got like 40 FPS out of it. And then I went in and like put in a little frame lock to try and lock it in at 40 FPS. So that's how I played it for 10 or 12 hours. But
did I tell you how I played Dark Souls 3? Because when it came out, I had a really crappy graphics card. So the way it worked is sometimes if I looked in a certain direction, there'd be a lot of stuff drawn on screen, and the game would just like dip to like 9 FPS or something.
Right.
And what happened is during boss fights, I would have to control the camera manually and carefully and look at the floor, because if I looked at the boss, the frame rate just tanked. Yeah, I had to like straight up strategize how I moved the camera. Yeah.
Doing
that
look
was
down
my
strats.
first experience. Yeah, that was my
That's
first
funny.
experience. It's like GoldenEye stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it does feel like, where I'm going with that is I think it does feel like part of me felt like the open world added a bunch of stuff, like as far as content, and the other part of me felt like the game was breaking trying to figure it all.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I was like, is this going to break apart at the seams? Because it felt like it was already breaking apart at the seams in the first area.
I had like an alternating cycle where I would get kind of bored when exploring the open world, and then the game would pull me back in with like a boss or a decent dungeon. Yeah, it was
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Another thing like early on that made me really appreciate the game, that was kind of just me being stupid, is I didn't realize for some reason I missed the prompt where you can like teleport if you open the map. I didn't realize you could actually teleport. Yeah. I was so used to the bonfire teleports, I was expecting it to show up there. But so what happened is when I actually explored the world, there was some danger to it, because I couldn't like go too far away, because go to like one of the later areas and get obliterated for the next 5 hours. I had to like be carefully explore and try to find bonfires and stuff. It was really interesting, because I felt excited. Like there was an excitement to the exploration. But when I realized that you could just teleport, it just turned into like an automatic boring process.
Yeah, I remember when I first got the horse, when I first started playing.
Yeah.
And the thought that immediately came to my mind is, oh shit, this is like Ocarina of Time, or it reminded me a lot of a Zelda game, but in a better way. It's like, okay, let's take Zelda, but make it
Zelda
better.
For grown-ups, dude.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It really did feel like Zelda for grown-ups. And man, I had a lot of fun fighting things on that horse. That was probably my favorite part of the game, was getting on the horse and just rocking the shit out of people on the horse, and horseback combat. And it even had stuff like you had to pay attention to what side you're slicing on. Like if you're right-handed, you got to attack from the right, and cheesing things out on the horse. That was my favorite, absolutely my favorite part of the game, is the horse.
I
running around on the horse and fighting stuff on
combat, because like the way you have to pivot around enemies, like circle them, the camera spins like the entire time, and you just like spin around them mashing R1. Man, I hated the horse. I almost never used it for combat besides like a few bosses and some mandatory stuff.
See, Aktane, I'm backing you up here. Say, I don't agree. I loved the horse. I thought the horse added so much to the game, because one, you have real movement speed. You can do all these crazy jump strategies. And whenever I was having trouble with the boss, I was like, let's just beat the shit out of him while riding the horse if I can. So that was my go-to every time, is let's get on the horse and just kick the shit out of people.
I think the different horse attacks for the different weapons are really, really cool. Like, for example, I picked Uchigatana, the samurai, to start with, and he drags it along the ground for the heavy attack, and it just looks so fucking cool. Like, it's
the heavy attack looks awesome.
And heavy attack just, and then if you pick it slices people's shins when it's dragging across the ground. So it's not just
you can like multi-hit them. You can multi-hit some enemies.
Yeah, so I'm like hitting these peewees for like 10% while I'm slicing, and then when that attack comes up, it just bodies whatever's on the right side. To your point, Boghog, I'm missing the attack, so I'm trying to time it like a joust. Like I'm jousting with this fucking guy. Like I'm trying to time my heavy attack. He's trying to knock me off my horse, and it's fucking cool.
Yeah, the horse
like,
combat is really fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, but that felt too high effort for me, because you can just like circle around and slash. So that's what I ended up doing. I mean, if you put extra effort into making it cool, I guess it could be cool. But like,
I think that's important, right? Because I think like a lot of RPG games in general, they're designed in a way that you're supposed to be in the world in such a way that you're making decisions based on how you want your story to go, not being funneled into a solution by the devs. Now, I'm not waving away bad level design and things like that. Like, I'm with you. Like, I'm not even going to argue with you on that. Like, you're right. Like, level design is really important. But I think being able to like jump in the shoes of this wandering samurai, I've got this full samurai gear, you know, I've got this horse, and I'm just exploring this world, and I'm doing things because it looks cool or because I think it's cool, and I'm having a good time doing it, versus like, oh, this is clearly not the most optimal way to do it, but I'm gonna do it because, you know, the visuals and the kind of emotion of being in that environment had compelled me at the time to do it. So I just think that's like not something that we'll discuss, the three of us, because I feel like we're pretty gameplay heavy players, but I think it's not something to be like washed away, because I think
it's pretty central.
You know, it's important.
I'm going to back I promised you, Aktane, I'd back you up in these conversations, and I got one for you. So I definitely know what Boghog's saying with this. Like, you can spam and cheese out so much bullshit on the horse, and there does kind of come a reductive moment where you realize, oh shit, I can circle strafe the crap out of everyone and just slash the shit out of everything. But my rebuttal to that, Bog, isn't that a part of these character action RPGs? Like, has a character action RPG ever successfully got around that issue of, I'm even thinking even character action games like Ninja Gaiden 2, the greatest of all time. If you want, you can just spam the you can just spam the shit out of everything if you want. But it makes the game lame if you do that. But you can just spam your way through almost the entire game.
Hold on, wait, let me add another one. Ninja Gaiden 1, if you're not flying sparrowing the fuck out of every boss, like, are you even playing? Because, like, literally all I would do is jump, flying sparrow, jump, flying sparrow. Yeah. There's one boss, I remember flying sparrowing back and forth, and I was just, like, eating a fucking sandwich while doing it, and the boss just died.
Yes. But they disable that on the higher difficulties. They start blocking.
Yeah, right? They start blocking. Yeah, and then in really 2, they really beat you down if you do too many high flying
Don't
sparrows.
play the higher difficulties in the first Ninja Gaiden. It's miserable. It's absolutely.
It's okay. I think
it's depressing. But no,
I think Mark's question is interesting though. So
it's important because I think usually the way the games balance this is by basically making those cheesy tactics more unintuitive or obscure. Right. That's one of the central things with Elden Ring.
Good point.
Yeah. It's like if you could UT spam, but then you need to like memorize all the enemy locations, figure out where like those like souls come from, like the items. You know, you gotta figure out where to position yourself. It feels like really unintuitive, completely the opposite of what you'd normally do. But with the horse,
exactly,
it's like it's such an obvious way to play.
It's too easy.
It's too convenient, easy. It's too intuitive. Like you naturally fall into that play style. I feel like I have to consciously stop myself from doing that.
Right. So you didn't enjoy circling and slashing the shit out of things. I really loved it.
I just stopped using the horse.
Maybe that's why I did it.
See, that's interesting because
I loved it.
Instead of playing on the horse in a more fun way, I just discarded the horse because it felt like too unintuitive to play in a fun way. And I think I enjoyed the combat more after that.
I definitely see what you mean there. I do think that combat design wise, off horse is way more polished and well done because the horse is this whole new thing. But I guess I really appreciated what the unique gameplay experience came on the horse, because how rare it is to find a good horse combat in a video game? It's like none of them exist. Ocarina of Time's horse combat stupid. All the Zelda games horse combat stupid. This is the first game where I was like, oh, I can actually like beat the shit out of things while riding a horse. You gotta
play Knights of the Round, dude. That's the best horse in video games.
Well, not 2D. Incredible. Yeah, 2D. Yeah, there's some good 2D ones. I'm talking 3D.
No, but I think I'm actually interested in this because Boghog, you said something very interesting. So like, I am 30 hours into the game. Like that's it. I'm not that far into it. I've gotten past Limgrave. I was asking my friends for some advice because I was telling him, I was like, I'm enjoying the game, but I feel like it's really slow. Like I'm just not finding enough stuff. Like I feel like I'm having to hunt for the fun a little bit too much. And their advice was just like, dude, stop doing the thing that you do. Like you're because in Dark Souls 3, I would look behind every rock, every corner, behind every
can't do that in Elden Ring. Yeah,
like I would literally be like, what's over there in that? Like I would smash every fucking vase. Like why not? Like right? Like that's how I play. And so I'm playing Elden Ring. Yeah, and I'm literally like, I gotta do this. This is on the
and
fucking
there's nothing. Go. There's nothing.
Step. Well, no. I don't think that's true. I don't think that that's true. Actually, I think there are things. You're getting Ashes of War. You're getting actual abilities. You're getting weapons. Sometimes you're getting some basic shit. It's not just like souls in a chest, which I would hate. Right? There are things. But I think are there relevant things? Good point. Maybe not to your build or whatever, but
right.
But I think the problem that I had with it was, and this is coming back to what you said, is like, if I were to get off my horse and play this game like Dark Souls 3, I'm kind of playing it wrong. I feel like the speed of the horse, the ability that the horse has to just carve through the open world is there so you can get to the next maybe cooler thing and skip up. Like, it almost feels like, you ever like riding on the horse and you see 100 dudes and a guy with a banner? You have a choice, right?
That's one of my criticisms, actually. Because after a while, it becomes way too time-consuming, way too repetitive, and way too difficult to fight normal enemies, so you just run past them all. Like, the open world, I agree with you, becomes filler after all. But what you said,
Sekiro has that issue too. Just to say, Sekiro, you can just fucking Spider-Man over everything. Why bother with that, right?
Well, you can do that in Dark Souls 1 and 3 too. Just run past everything to the boss. Like, how many times have people done that? You fight him the first time, but the second time you're like, good. Like,
yeah, isn't that just an issue with the series? That would be my defense. It is an issue with
the series, yeah, I'd say. But the problem is that you're spending so much time navigating the open world and like exploring. But
exactly, it's compounded.
Yeah. And one of the things that makes it extra it makes me want to point it out is because people praise Dark Souls Elden Ring's open world a lot. Like, they say it's new, it's unique, but one of the things that a lot of my favorite open world games do, that it just doesn't do. For example, it doesn't have a proper AI life simulation system. The enemies just kind of are plopped there like a MMORPG, right? It doesn't. The exploration, like,
wait a minute, hold on
now, Boghog. Yeah? MMORPGs.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna.
We don't know what you're talking about. Explain.
Go there.
Explain.
Well, for example, you're playing Stalker, right? Even Skyrim, you're playing Stalker, and they have these simple life simulation kind of AI.
I know what you're saying.
Does that mean they're out washing their clothes?
Enemies will be like patrolling the world.
They sleep, they shit.
Okay.
Well, even enemies, they patrol the area, fight with other enemies, fight with NPCs. There's like various events they do. They sometimes maybe even hunt. In Elden Ring, like, some dudes walk around those carriages, pull the carriages, but the world feels dead. The only times when enemies fight other enemies is like specific set pieces that repeat every time you go.
Right.
There. There's nothing dynamic happening in the open world, I feel.
So
I will give Boghog that, because it does really feel like you're going through, and the enemies are just kind of like, sometime the player will come through here, but they're not really up to anything. They're just kind of chilling.
My favorite is when you're walking past and some goblin is disguised as a bush. Okay, was he just sitting there all that time? Waiting for someone to.
But Boghog, wait a minute. What if, because he's a goblin, right? What if it's the nature of a goblin to do that? They're like, how Venus flytraps just hang out and pretend to be flowers all day?
What if some of these creatures? This is my favorite side of Mark MSX. You guys are getting
the biology of the goblin, huh?
Yeah, that's what if it's its natural behavior, like a jellyfish? It just hangs out as a bush. Whatever comes by, it attacks.
But then how do you explain that there's a bear disguised as a normal enemy?
That's how he hunts. He tricks his prey that way. They're like, oh shit, it's a normal enemy. Bam, bear, and then he eats them.
Okay, that's fair, actually. Yeah.
No, and actually, Mark is employing a defense that I do have against this argument, and it's what I was going to say, but I wanted to hear you out just to make sure I understood what you were saying. So I agree with you, by the way. I do think the world feels dead. I think especially when you're going through areas that don't have any enemies, that should just not happen in a Dark Souls game.
Yeah, and
there's
also
really
actually
no reason for a dead section. But let me answer your other point, and then we'll come back to this point, because I
might actually forget about this. Is quick. One of the things.
No. I will not allow it.
Broke debate. I took it. No, hold on. This is not even a counterpoint. I'm just saying that it feels dead in a way that it shouldn't, because Elden Ring isn't like Dark Souls. It's not like a dead world. The armies are still technically fighting. Okay, continue.
You mean the lore? And I agree
like in the lore. Yeah.
Okay. Lore. Yeah. Okay.
But I think Dark Souls has always been a series where, like, you've heard Miyazaki talk about it, right? Why was it created? Why was Demon Souls created? And why is it designed in a certain way? He would read fantasy novels. Did you guys know about this? He would read fantasy novels as a kid.
But I know nothing of the lore of this game.
Okay.
Let me give Mark the quick Miyazaki lore. So, like, and the viewers, of course, the viewers of the channel. So he would read fantasy novels, but they were in English or other languages that he couldn't understand fully. And he couldn't speak, like, he can't read English that well. So he would, like, this is as a kid, right? As a child. he would read these and kind of just pick up enough details to know what was going on and fill in the rest in his head. That was like his version of imagination. So like when he made these games, it's very clear that there's like the flavor text in the items, and there's enough going on that you get a sense of lore. I'm talking about Dark Souls 1. I mean, obviously this has changed and evolved, right? Yeah. Sekiro is very fucking specific about its lore. Like, it's not that there's nothing to talk, right? But the point of the matter is that he's done this for a while, and it's for a reason. You're supposed to be able to fill in some of the gaps on your own, and that's purposeful, right?
Right.
And some of the best games, so like I agree with you on the world being lived in and all that kind of stuff, but I think that some of the best action-y games, like a Shadow of the Colossus, or even like a Breath of the Wild or something like that, like it's more about being in the space than it is about the space inhabiting some kind of. So like there's most of my moments in Elden Ring where I just like stopped and like took a screenshot, had no one fighting, right?
I have over 1,000 screenshots.
Yeah, but it's the moment where it's like you're just like, holy fuck. Like, one, I was over there. It's like all that bullshit open world shit that people talk about when they're
they like find they don't find God. People talk that way, but they find like video game God when they're playing. Or I look out at Breath of the Wild and I see everything in the distance, and I feel who I am inside and all that stuff. Yeah, and I'm like, sure.
Well, it's not that. It's not that. I'm gonna make it more I'm gonna bring it from art down to game dev, so Boghog can actually have a part in this conversation. Jokes.
My game dev brain can understand. Yeah.
Yeah, so your game dev brain can understand.
Some tiny game dev brain.
The difference. Oh, come on.
Your lizard brain.
Right, I don't rub it in too far. So like to me, game dev wise, conceptually, the idea is not that I can go there or I was there. Right? When you're in Anor Londo, or if you're in a different place, like you're in a castle and you see the castle from a distance in a different environment. The idea is not like, I can go there and I can fucking jump scam my way up this mountain and go look at this castle. That's not the point. The point is that I remember what happened there, and it was meaningful to me. And that memory is what it's
like
supposed
gameplay
to
wise.
Be. So like, yeah, gameplay wise, like
look at the castle,
fucking
like,
birds with the
fucking
fucking blades beat my ass.
Dude,
there.
Yeah, those birds are amazing. I love those birds.
Those birds beat my ass. That first castle has so much in it that if there's 2 more of those, the game will have been worth my $60. Hell, if there's 1 more of those, the game will have been worth my $60.
That's still the best area to me.
Take the rest of the game and light it on fire, because that castle blew my shit. And it's not about can I go there and this and that. It's about like, there's a building the size of a castle, and going through the different rooms and navigating it in different ways and finding all the secrets was just, to me, like, oh my god, like, holy fuck. Design. Like, and now when I look back at that castle, I remember shit and go like, right, there's hopefully, Boghog's saying there isn't, so I haven't played the rest of the game. I hope there is. Hopefully more areas like that where I can look back and go like, I spent 12 hours navigating this giant castle and it was insane.
But they're not as good IMO. They're still good.
Fine.
Like, they're fine. They're just that first one. It has like a narrative to it. It has a
narrative to it.
Yeah, you start off like with these clean quarters, you see like, and then you go into underneath it, and you see some all kinds of abominations in there. And you slowly discover the concept of crafting and everything. It's fucking awesome.
So here's the problem with like
though,
Skyrim
open world
or Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. To defend the open world a bit. I have played a few open world games. The one I've played the most is Metal Gear Solid 5. And by God, it's just literally like dirt and grass. Like half the game.
Yeah.
Like, I get, whatever. He wanted to spend as much money as possible. He wanted to spend as much of Konami's money as possible on that game. But it did not need to be an open world game. And the parts of the game that are the best are the parts that you can tell it's like, all right, let's actually just make a level here. And
with Elden Rings,
it's not.
Like, so Aktane, your point is that the encounters aren't like the AI isn't dynamic, so they have more control over how you the kind of experiences you have, or what?
My point is more that like having the life cycles and the AI wouldn't enhance this video game.
It wouldn't. I think it would enhance the open world, because the problem.
I agree. But I don't want this to be an open world video game. It just happens to be one.
Okay, well, yeah.
Well, that's a good point, though, Boghog, because...
Let's talk about this for a second, right?
Because is the appeal of Elden Ring really that it's an open world game, or is the appeal all the other shit that's not the open world aspect?
To me, it's not the open world, but a lot of people talk about like how majestic the exploring Limgrave is.
Well, that's is that reviewers? Because that's all reviewers are capable of talking about.
No, even players.
Reviewers have no ability to discuss combat or mechanics
or
boss design, level design. I'm serious. All reviewers can do, like all the Kotakus and IGNs, all they can talk about is how majestic the open world is and blah blah blah.
No,
blah.
I think. Look, I'll answer it very succinctly. Like, I don't think Elden Ring is an open world game. I just think it has a very, very big world map that happens to have a lot of space in it. Like, it's not that different from Dark Souls 1 or 3. It's just the map is
huge.
Very big. Yeah. I don't think that, like do you say Dark Souls 1 is open world? Because I would say it is. Absolutely.
I would agree. Map, right? I thought it was open world. That's why I was confused when people were saying it wasn't. World. I was like, isn't Dark Souls 1 open world?
Yeah, it's fair. Dude, like, here's the thing, man. The amount of NPCs in that game and the amount of shit that's fucking going on, if like NPCs were moving from one place to a fucking another because they actually had motivations to like that, this game would be worse. That guy's got to better sit there on that stoop until I'm ready to continue his fucking quest. Because if he's moving around, I'm gonna never find his ass.
Have you played the Stalker games?
Yeah, I've played. I know what you're saying, but the Stalker games are very condensed compared to.
The hub world based. Yeah. Well, I was thinking,
thank God, because I hadn't. I was like, oh shit, he's got me.
No, fuck him up.
Octane's got him.
I think Stalker is a game where you are mostly doing one thing. Would you agree? Like, it's like you're not like.
Isn't it an FPS game?
Yeah,
it is. And the thing about Stalker is like it's almost like, well, actually, Boghog, you're probably better equipped to. I haven't beaten Stalker, but I've only played like maybe 10, 15 hours of it as a kid. Stalker's very good, but I think like Stalker is one of those things. Again, it goes down to like it's like a simulation of a role that you're in, but that role is very kind of like this. Whereas I think Elden Ring is like there is no role. I mean, there's some lore or whatever. Fuck it. Like you're
not on a horse though. You're not fucking shit up on a horse. You got to give Elden Ring
shooting from a horse. Just hip shooting from a horse.
Wait, there's a horse Stalker.
World War I did shit like that.
Maybe the modded Stalker. Yeah, probably the modded Stalker.
I was gonna lose my mind. It's like, man, I didn't play long enough. Fuck.
Yeah, the mutant horses. You missed those.
But do you really think, Boghog? Do you really think that if there were Skyrim elements and like people like living, eating, and like sleeping in beds and shit. No, enemies. Like, dude, if I rolled up into a Dark Souls castle and it was at nighttime and the enemies were sleeping, I would literally refund the game immediately. I'd be like, fuck this piece of shit.
They're like taking a shit. You're like, wait a minute.
I'm like, what is this? This is fucking Skyrim. I don't want Skyrim. Fuck this game.
Hold on, let me defend myself. All right, not the castles.
No, you get nothing. I'm just kidding.
Okay, the court shall hear Boghog.
The castles are good. The castles are good because there's like a narrative to it. You're exploring like I said, like there's a specific experience they're built around. But the open world games like plop down enemies almost randomly. And there's some set pieces where it feels like okay, here maybe there's a lot of jellyfish. You can figure out that they're kind of like meant to be spirits or something. Yeah, but. Because the enemy encounters are often so generic, it feels like if they added some kind of life simulation, you could have a more dynamic experience. Like imagine you're roaming through a forest and like a boss just like waltzes in there. You see him in the distance or something. Like if they roamed around more.
So you're saying you'd want the bosses not to be like X marks the spot. Here's the boss. Like the boss has a little route it eats in the morning, and it goes kind of around and patrols the area a bit.
Enemies in general. The problem is it's really difficult. Technically, it's like insanely difficult, especially with the game.
Because let's say you did that, and then the poor player is going along, and like the boss and 500 enemies are like all together in one area, and randomly, and like, oh shit,
that's fucking awesome. That's the kind of experience you want in an open world game, right?
I think it happened to me, and I was very disappointed, and I'll explain. So the first dragon that you find in the first swamp, very cool boss fight to me. Honestly, I fought him on the horse, and it was like cool. That fire was like it was like singeing my goat horse's ass, like as I was fucking fighting, so here's what happened. I fought and I have the clip. I can show you guys the clip. I fought this horse in where it was supposed to be, where it lives, right? Like you said, Boghog, it lives in a particular spot. It's a very small spot, too, but it lives there. And I'm fighting this boss. I'm on the horse. It's way more epic than any other Dark Souls I've ever experienced because of the horse and the scale of the fight, right? The scale of the fight is 10x what I've ever seen in a Dark Souls game because I'm on a horse. And this dragon's chasing me around. He's jumping up. He's strafing. But the combat's good. It's not like Skyrim. So I'm like, whoa, this is awesome, right? He does this back jump onto a piece of land that's on the edge of the swamp. No. He landed on top of the land, and he's spewing fire. And that's when I noticed that the fire was kind of like a shmup. It's like an actual like physical object that descends down. It's not like a physical fire. It's like a physical thing that falls off of things.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, this game's fucking, this is like that Capcom fucking trash ass game, Dragon's Dogma. It's like that, but good. And like all this shit. And then I ran up there to fight him. Like I was like, oh, he's up there, I'm gonna get him. And like I ran my horse up there and like triple jumping my horse up there to fucking fight this guy. And as I got up to that land, he reached his boss limit.
What's that mean?
Teleported his ass. Oh, yeah. He just disappeared.
Yeah, they just disappeared and reappeared.
And he fucking just literally disappeared and reappeared in the swamp. Now, the good news is he still had his health bar.
Okay, if that's happening, I'm on Bog's side now. You can't have that. Where the bosses start teleporting around.
I'm going to agree with Bog on this. Now, I think he's right. Like, technically, it's very difficult, right? Because, like, if that dragon hangs out in the castle where all the birds are, like, now you're getting into, like, a real, like, true open world jank where it's like you can break the game in ways that neither of you want. You know, like, hey, let me lure the dragon to the castle. Like, no, dude, guys, come on.
Yeah, the collision issues.
Like, you're fighting the first boss and the dragon shows up as you're fighting one of the bosses.
Yeah, he shows up. Yeah. Like, oh, shit. Like,
well, the one good thing is that because it's open world and there's so many options, you can actually just, if you run into too difficult of an encounter, you can just like ignore it and run away. So you know true. those kinds of insane, like you turn the corner and you see an army approaching you, you're going right for your ass. You know,
wouldn't that be kind of lame though? Like in practicality, where you're having to just sit around all the time, like okay, I gotta wait for these guys to move in their path. Like it's almost like playing a stealth game, but in an ugly way. Where it's like okay, I gotta wait for this dude to run his entire route before I proceed.
It's the thing that fucking sucks about Monster Hunter, because in Monster Hunter you go into an area and you have to fight this boss, but they're in some god for fucking sake an area out of 13 areas, and you're just like literally just doing this like for 4 areas trying to find this stupid ass boss, and it's like I don't want to play that game.
But yeah, let me be clear though. I don't want bosses to just roam around anywhere. Like for example, the mid bosses, the generic mid bosses that appear in the game, like that big bear, for example. Yeah, those can roam around. Those can like waltz into weird. So
since we're talking about bosses,
that's true.
It would have to be yeah.
Like that is a good point. So is it completely static? I guess we have to establish that.
Yeah, it's almost like.
It's damn near close.
Yeah, it's really close. That's why I compared it to an MMO, you know? Because MMOs have these like spawn zones where enemies respawn every once in a while, and you can go into those spawn zones, they aggro, and you walk out, they just like go back, or I don't know what they do.
But you should love that, Mark, because it's like, hey, you know, like predictability of gameplay is important, because the and like, let me back up. Like, it's like, to me, it's like, I don't want to have to search for shit. That's my biggest criticism with this game. Don't make me search for the gameplay. Right? And like the less things move, the more likely I am to find them and fight them, because the most important part of the game, the best part of the game, when you're fighting shit, right? So don't make me not fight shit at times.
Well, then it feels like you're completely giving up on exploration then. I mean, that's fine.
No, let's talk about that.
Yeah, because that's the problem is if you start throwing in Mark MSX ideas, this bitch ends up a linear level-based game. It's what it ends up happening.
It's a 40 hours.
I start cutting out exploration. I start cutting out RPG mechanic. It just turns into an action game, basically.
No, it's okay. I think like I get what you're saying, Boghog, and I think like I'm in two minds about it. I think for me, emergent gameplay is important, but I think I don't expect it out of these games, and I never kind of have. So it's like emergent gameplay for me, it doesn't really, like, I don't know how it would fit in that genre in like a meaningful way, but I do think that exploration is important. And I think that exploration can be as simple as your level design, right? What you find and what you can do and how you can interact with the world. doesn't mean that things have to be necessarily very dynamic. I just think that it just means that things have to be like each place has to have an interesting, like an intuitive path through it that leads you through most things. And then there's like 20% of shit that's behind a cave or a waterfall or some fucking godforsaken shit that like you'll never find. But if you really sat down, like for me, the stone key that opens the very first dungeon that's locked in the game, that's by the tutorial area, that godforsaken place. I went back, I put the stone sword key in, I did that dungeon. Did I like it? No. But there was, I actually hated it. But I think there was stuff in there where I was just like, okay, this is exploratory in nature. It's like, it's optional in nature, right? And I think like exploratory can mean optional. It can mean discovery. It can mean the same as that castle. It's like you stumble upon this castle and you're going through nooks and crannies, things like. I don't think that the castle has to necessarily be dynamic for it to be a fun thing to explore, because that castle is 100% static, but still very fun to explore.
Well, yeah,
but the open areas, like I see what Boghog's coming here, like the open areas where you're just riding around on your horse.
Yeah, ideally you could do that. You could like design the open world to have like so many unique and interesting encounters, so it feels like a big version of that castle. But like realistically, you're gonna just plop around enemies, like generally, like maybe even procedurally, randomize the enemies and then just lock them in or something. It's not gonna be like realistically, you can't really guarantee that the open world will be that tightly designed. So I think a better way to go about it is to use more emergent stuff for the open world. And have like really structured set pieces and dungeons.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What are your other thoughts on the open worlds now that we're getting into like the meat of the open world discussion? So you felt that the enemy placement was too static. Actually. What were your other thoughts on that? My thoughts were I couldn't really tell what my initial impressions of the open world were, because it felt like the best open world game that I'd played, but I'm not an expert in this field. But I thought it was seriously a lot better than Metal Gear Solid 5, a lot better than Breath of the Wild,
that
a lot
one's
better
I like Breath of the Wild more,
Skyrim. I thought it was way better than all of those.
In terms of the open world design, not because like it's designed, it has almost all the same flaws, but like the main thing it does is it actually makes navigation interesting. So you're always like looking where you can climb, where you can like take a shorter route, where you can fly.
Horse, man,
like,
dude. But the horse,
the horse just feels like a faster dude. It doesn't.
That's what makes it awesome. I disagree, because I liked Elden Ring's open world a lot more than Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, I was like, boring, snooze fest. Stamina. I mean, Elden Ring, for one, gets rid of the stupid stamina when you run. That's beautiful. And then you can ride your horse, and you can, like, move around real quick with your horse, like, and fight.
Stamina makes it so that you have to, like, pay attention to how tall a cliff is, what you can climb. And then if you climb on a cliff, you can paraglide or surf. Okay.
I like the horse. The horse can just jump up the cliff. The horse, forget it. The horse can, like, find a...
Just jump scam.
You can jump scam up
just
stuff.
Like Skyrim jump scam up.
Jump around things. I love that.
You know what sucks about the horse? The double jump. Jesus. Like, you can't soften your landing with the double jump. You can, like, double jump right
that was stupid.
Actually, that is really stupid. Because when you jump off of something and you fucking die, like that is so fucking annoying.
It's so unintuitive. You cancel all momentum, and your dude like softly lands as soft as a feather and just crumbles.
The part about that sucks too, gameplay wise, Boghog, is the cases where they're like edge cases where you're like, could I make it? Obviously, the idea is, okay, player, we don't want you jump scamming too much, so we're gonna put this death fall mechanic in, even if you do try to double jump. But there's some cases where you're like, could it work? And then you have to take the risk, and then you die. Motherfucker.
See, the reason I like Zelda is because like it took those edge cases and built a game out of them. It feels like like in Elden Ring, you're climbing a cliff. You can like jump on these like small little platforms inside the cliff, and you're like, could I make it? Could I do it? Could I maybe land on this? And it feels really janky. But in Zelda, it's a consistent system, so you can kind of like.
I would say if they got rid of that stupid death fall thing, I would still greatly prefer Elden Ring if they just got rid of that.
Absolutely. And I think like the death fall thing doesn't add anything to the game. Like there's no reason not to let you fall 4,000 feet to your death to some part where like literally you're gonna hit the ocean and die, or you're gonna get into a bunch of enemies that are gonna kick your ass and fucking anyways. There's no reason for
I don't get it. That's stupid.
all damage to the game at all. Like, it's like, why? Like, it's like, you don't think there's an enemy there that's gonna fucking kill me anyways? Like, why? Why can you just let me play a little bit? I think part of it's like, oh, you probably can't get your souls back, or you have to jump down.
It's a bit weird because the older games, in the older games, it was used to really strictly limit the level design, so you couldn't sequence break too much. But here it's like you can just there's so much broken stuff in this game that I feel is completely unnecessary. Like they just kept it as a relic almost. Didn't really think about changing it.
Yeah. All right, James, I'll be right back. I shall return. But I'm listening.
Okay, he's listening. Okay. He's with us in our heart. I definitely do agree with that as far as. Okay, so what do you think about the open world as far as improvements that you would like to see, Bog? Because I definitely grant the stupid double jump death thing. That was retarded. So that needs to go. I'm kind of on board a bit with the idea of moving enemy around a little bit, but I don't like the idea of having them just wander too much, because I do kind of like Aktane's idea of it being more of kind of like a level, a little more static, even if it is sort of spread out everywhere. Because
I'd have to think about it a lot. You could go that way. You could keep the size of the open world, and you could make it more dynamic, make the AI more dynamic. Think about the little settlements of enemies and maybe have them interact. Or you could go the way Aktane suggested, but then I think you'd have to reduce the size of the levels, and you're basically at the early Dark Souls games with the semi open world.
What about just throwing more enemies in there? Just beef up that enemy count. I might be down with that.
But why would you fight them?
I know, that's Trump. See, open world design, open world design. Why?
Yeah,
this is why I don't like it.
Yeah, because you can't they don't give much souls so to prevent you from grinding them. They're not unique. The enemies aren't unique. You can fight them in other dungeons. Then what else? There's too many ways to cheese them, so it feels like if you want to fight them, you gotta make it challenging for yourself. I don't know. It feels like the enemies are almost designed to be.
This is a good question though, Bog.
Yeah.
Has a game ever solved this issue of open world design? Has it ever actually been solved? This issue of, well, ultimately, what motivates you to engage with the open world? Because I've never really seen it. So, and you're a little more versed. Well, Aktane, we're talking about. So I was suggesting maybe one idea would be just to up the enemy count to make the open world more interesting. Just have more enemies hanging out.
Interesting.
And he's thought, well, what would be your motivation to fight them? Why wouldn't you just go past them or fast travel or whatever you do?
Yeah, it kind of hurts.
And I was like, oh, damn it. Open world, this is the issue you run into. So the question I posed was, has any game solved this, though? Is this Elden Ring specifically, or has any open world game solved this problem of, well, why fight in the first place?
Not perfectly, no. There's been some... Yeah.
But I don't understand the premise, because you don't have to fight. You can just ride your horse for 10
seconds. Yeah, but then...
He says that's boring. That's boring to just run around on your horse.
I'll explain. I know. I do think there's a point to the open world, because I think traversal is an important part of game design.
But I don't think traversal is very interesting in Elden Ring compared to Breath of the Wild, for example.
So I agree with you.
That's another issue. There's 2 issues.
Well, but the speed of the horse, I like Elden Ring more, because you're hauling some ass, at least. There's at least that feeling. I don't like Breath of the Wild's traversal because there's stamina bars, and it just feels like you're just walking around, and it feels like a chore to me. Elden Ring things at least feels a little more fun. You're riding around the horse, slicing stuff up, killing stuff on the horse.
I think it's okay to do light traversal. This is light traversal, right? This isn't like you said, Boghog. There's fast travel, and or whatever. You don't even have to traverse. You get to that bonfire, guess what? You probably not. You're probably not. You're I'm good. I've kind of been there, and you might miss stuff doing stuff like that. But I think in a game, I think not bloating. Maybe that's the wrong word. But I think incorporating more into this game is not necessarily the answer. To me, the answer is tightening up what's there.
Yeah, the other suggestion I said was making the open world smaller so it's more feasible to
I heard that.
Make it more, but then we're just back to Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, right? We're just back to that kind of formula.
But isn't that better? Would you say Dark Souls 1's level design is better than Elden Ring?
Yeah,
hot topic. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. Wait, I don't know. That castle is amazing.
That castle
is truly amazing.
But proportionally,
moments
Dark Souls 1 is really consistent. It doesn't feel like like Elden Ring's highs, I think, are really high, especially that castle. But like it's just so uneven. Like I said, I went through periods of really massive boredom, and then like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And again, boredom.
I remember feeling that way in the lake. What do you think about the lake, Aktane? Like when I was riding around in that swamp, I was like, at first I was like, this is sick. I love this. But then after a few hours, I'm like, okay, I'm literally just lost in a swamp here.
Yeah, once the visuals like wear out, once you So I don't know. The way I don't think any game solved the issue of skipping enemies. I think like there's been good attempts. Like Stalker is. You
can't do it in Witcher.
You can't do it. You can't do it in Witcher.
Well, maybe you can. I guess it depends on if you're doing open world boss fight or if you're doing. I think you just die in The Witcher. Like once you trigger a boss in The Witcher 3 and you fight that boss, you just have to fight it. Like you can't. Like you can't just like I'm gonna run away. Like now you can just not trigger it, or you can determine like you don't want to go to that portion of the game where there is combat. Because Witcher 3 does this thing where it clearly delineates this is a non-combat area and this is a combat area.
Oh no!
In the non-combat area, you can't do jack diddly fuck.
Yeah, but
exactly. It's spot on. That's exactly what it is. But I'm not saying that it solved the issue, but I am saying like once you get into a battle, can't like back yourself out of the battle.
Yeah,
but
I guess my final thoughts on the open world, and I'll let you two battle out the final thoughts, is I agree with Bogh's criticisms of the open world, but at the same time, I've just never seen it done better. That's my only thing, is like, I don't like open world games, but Elden Ring was the one I was like, at least this one is doable for me. I kind of like riding around the horse, slicing stuff up, and like I said, it was light enough where I wasn't like
it feels like to you it's good because it doesn't get in the way, so you don't appreciate it because it's an open world. You just appreciate it because it's like a non-issue, right?
Yes.
But I want games that if they do an open world, it feels like they should make it more engaging. You know, get the best out of the open world design that they can. I don't think any game solved the issue of you being able to skip enemies, but some. I did like some interesting stuff with resources, because one of the good ways to encourage you to fight enemies is to create a really strong resource economy. So you're always using something, and you always have to get it back from enemies. You know, and of course FPS games have an easier time because enemies can attack you from afar. In Elden Ring, it's mostly melee, so it's easier to skip. But yeah, like if you have a really strong resource economy, like say you have like bullets, you can't buy bullets, you gotta scavenge them from enemies or something. Then there's more reason to like take out a group of enemies, see what they have, like quickly pick it up, and then just go about your way. I feel like that's a good way to encourage.
How would they even do that in a Dark Souls type game though? Because you don't want to do like weapon durability or anything, do you? Or do you?
Yeah, they tried that a bit. I don't know. That's a big question. That'd like require a lot of thinking, because you know, like any suggestion you give would have like a million knock-on effects. For example, if you like, okay, maybe you have limited Estus, but then how would that play in the dungeons? That would probably suck in the dungeons. I don't know.
What if here's a crazy idea? What if they had a mechanic? This would drive open world players insane. I think I'd like it though, where you're slowly dying. You have like this timer and it's slowly going down. In order to survive, you have to kill things to keep alive.
Oh my lord! All right, yeah. I mean,
okay.
honestly, that sounds kind of a little bit. That's like Crazy Taxi, right?
Except yes, exactly. I was thinking of like an arcade game, like Crazy Taxi or something. Where
people
just made crazy.
It, though. My God,
that suck blood.
Yeah, you just get like mobs in front of your home if you design it.
What's the problem with skipping enemies though? That's why you make an open world game. You don't make an open world game to funnel people. You can't. It's like antithesis to the design of an open world game. The whole point of an open world game is there's 47 things in front of you. You're going to do the ones you want to, and you're going to be forced to do some of the ones you don't want to, so that you can progress the game forward, because the game is going to force you to do it, right? Like it's not going to let you move on because a bridge is up and you can't get off the bridge, or like other shit's happening.
I think you're describing sandbox games, not open world games. Open world games, there's like they want to encourage some kind of play styles, behaviors. They're not like complete playgrounds where you do whatever you want. No,
I'm not talking about playgrounds. I'm talking about what's optional and what's
well. Isn't that the idea of an open world game?
Discussion, right?
Like the idea is you basically can skip shit. Isn't that sort of the idea?
Yeah.
Like you can skip stuff.
Like it's like how can like the discussion of, well, how do we make fights non-optional?
But I guess
not an open world game discussion to me.
Right. I guess the problem is like, why would you skip shit? I think that's the big question for me.
I agree.
True.
And I think that games where you're replaying stuff, and this comes back to shmups, and you guys have heard me talk about this a million times. Games where you're replaying stuff, having the option to skip stuff you've already done, if there is no upside to it, like you don't want to play around and try to fight those enemies a different way, or there's no meaningful XP gain, or there's just nothing to do. Let players skip that shit. Why would? That's why fast travel exists, right? No one wants to.
Yeah, but doesn't that kind of feel like lame design where you're skipping enemies enemy encounters because they feel boring to fight? You're not skipping them because, like, for example, you want to.
I agree with Bog, but the problem is that it's kind of the premise that I have an issue with, and that's the problem. Is like we start biting into it too much, and we're basically just removing open world games.
I guess I just like open world games to be more kind of like survival-ish rather than the sandboxy. That's
what Mark is saying. Mark is saying that make it so you can't, like, make it so you're poisoned or some shit, and so you can't fucking. Yeah,
so that's my idea as well with the resource economies. It's just like
but I think
less forceful.
But I think that makes exploration shit. So if you want exploration, you can't have that, because Dark Souls 2 had this thing. How? What do you mean how? Like, dude, if I'm going in... I'm going to explain it. If I'm going in a particular mountain, but I would never go up this mountain because, like, let's take Mark's example of you're poisoned and you can only have 60 seconds before you go up this mountain. I'm just not going to go.
You got 2 minutes.
Like,
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm still not going to fucking go. It's the same thing as fucking Zelda stamina. It's like you look at your stamina bar and you go, not going to go up there. Just not going to do it.
Mark's example is a little bit brutal, but imagine like if
doesn't matter. Survival is the opposite of exploration.
I don't think it's the opposite of exploration. It just structures your exploration. For example, imagine if you have a limited amount of bullets, right? And there's a natural incentive to kind of like find encounters, and you can only
Resident Evil 4. That's a good. It's not an open world game, but Resident Evil 4 is like the one game where I go around and look for shit because I need bullets. It's like the one game I do that.
Yeah, and it feels like a good reason to explore. It rewards you and also structures your exploration. But
maybe do that with health. Maybe that's the answer for a Dark Souls game.
That's like, where this is going. This is going in like, you just. That's just a Dark Souls.
But Aktane doesn't like that idea. I think that's the problem. Is like, we have to admit, Bog, that most players are horrified by this idea of.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. If I start talking about what other players prefer, I'm gonna say completely different stuff. I think.
Yes. Just no, but let's stick. I like this idea, Boghog, bringing up of bringing some sort of meaning, because I do have this issue with the Souls games. Like, what is the meaning of some of these encounters? Because like I said, you fight these first batch enemies for 4 hours, then you realize this is meaningless. I just wasted 4 hours of my time doing this. I could have just walked right past them with very little consequence.
And enjoyed.
How do you get around this?
Yeah, like I don't know.
What do you mean? No. There's a huge consequence to walking past them. You've already beaten them multiple times, so you've gained the XP that you needed from them, and you've gained the combat experience. You did that. If you walked past them, you would not have that combat experience.
But isn't the XP not that much compared to other ways to get XP?
And also, often you skip encounters that you didn't fight before, right?
Yeah, but if you did fight him before, why would you want to make the player fight him again? Who gives a fuck? Like, don't let them make them do that shit again. The game's long enough. Like, there's no reason for them to fight the same dude over and over and over again.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of issues tied in here. Like, we can't discuss the main crux because, like, for example, because we're talking about Elden Ring, and there's a lot of issues overlapping that don't necessarily have to do with.
Fair enough.
But that's why we're here.
I think to your point, like, let me ask you this: is anything that we've said Elden Ring specific?
No.
Okay.
No. The reason I bring this up is because a lot of people.
But I'll give Boghog this. Elden Ring, according to the internet, is the greatest game of all time. And so, isn't it held to a higher standard than?
Yeah, that's the reason I bring it up, right? Yeah, that's the reason I bring up the open world stuff, because it's praised so much. It's like
it is like a 12 out of 10. So isn't it held to the highest possible standard?
But where have you heard that Elden Ring is a good open world game? I've never heard
anywhere. Look up like Elden Ring.
All I hear is it's a very good Souls game that's like now an open world. It happens to be
look up Elden Ring open world. I get like recommendations on my feed daily, and I watch. Yes. I hate watch them.
Don't watch them, Bog. Poor Bog's torturing himself.
It's kind of bizarre to me. It's kind of bizarre to me because it's like, well, one, no one has the only truly successful open world series has been Grand Theft Auto by far, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Like, if you want
that game is insane. My God.
There's no other watermark. Like, there's only one. Like, Witcher 3 is open world, sure, whatever. I mean, you can shake your stick at that. Or like Cyberpunk, oh yeah, good luck to fucking defending that. Skyrim has been lauded a million times. I hate the game. I think it's a bad game. But it's like,
I guess Breath of the Wild's the other one. Everyone's like, it's the greatest open world thing ever. It made my life the best thing.
I enjoyed it less overall, but I think the open world is like.
I guess compare it to Breath of the Wild. You felt that Breath of the Wild's open world was better? I liked Elden Rings more personally. I did.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you don't like open world, so you're like, get this out of my way.
But you can at least you can ride around the horse and slash the shit out of stuff. I did enjoy that.
Right. So it's just better as a game, not as an open world game too, right?
Probably.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I would say the same thing. Like I wouldn't try to put Elden Ring in the open world discussion at all. Like, I would never try to put that.
Okay.
No, it's not that kind of game.
You gotta start commenting under YouTube vids, dude.
It just happens to be a very big game, but I don't think that it's like, you can't put
that is true. Where I really didn't know there was any sort of difference between it and Dark Souls 3 or 1 or anything like that until I started seeing people talk about, it's the best open world game ever or whatever. Like, it didn't seem like, maybe is this a bit of a product of its own marketing rather than its own design?
Yeah, I think it is.
You're right. I think you're right, Mark.
And also clickbait, because if you wax on for like an hour about how amazing and new this is, it's like nice click generation.
Because I looking back on it, I don't know. This would be interesting. I guess people in the comments can weigh in. Was there a real push from Soft about how this is an open world experience, or was this a push from the journalists who were, doing what they need to do?
Yeah, well, I mean, Elden Ring was known as like open world Dark Souls right from the beginning, basically. As soon as they showed the trailers, I think it was mostly from the fans. I'm not sure if the marketing was in the same vein, but yeah, it was just known as like open world. That's a big addition, because otherwise it's kind of like Dark Souls 3, but more, different universe, basically.
And I agree with you. It is bigger. It's bigger, and it feels like an open world game. Like, for example, if anyone ever told me Ghost of Tsushima was an open world game, I would say, I guess. Is it a good open world game? Not in the slightest, dude. If you want to leverage your concerns of this game against that game, you will have nothing left. Nothing left. There's nothing. There's fucking nothing. Yeah, it makes Elden Ring look lived in. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's incredible how shit Ghost of Tsushima's open world is. There's literally nothing there. Nothing happened. And I think, like, to your point on, like, what I'm curious about is if we think that this is like an evolution of this series of games, right? To quote unquote the open world, right? Whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
Like, why is that so exciting to people?
I don't know.
And that's an important question. And I think it has to do more with us as older gamers and people as younger gamers. Because I think, like, right now, if you're 11 or 15 or 20, you will have been playing Minecraft for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I know.
Minecraft will have been half your gaming experience. Yeah. And so if you and then you go from Minecraft to Dark Souls 1 or 2 or 3, and you're just like, where's the rest of the game?
Yeah, no kidding. That's really true. Like, we have a whole generation of players that wouldn't, like, I remember when I played Ocarina of Time and there's the Great Field, I was like, what the fuck? This is insane. Shit. This is huge. Yeah. This is massive. And now we have a whole generation of people that's like tiny to them.
Yeah, but then you go into like the early 2000s and the mid 2000s where, well, even the late 2000s and the early like 2010s where open world games started coming out more and more and more, and like there's a fatigue that built up. And when Dark Souls came out, it's like, holy shit, finally
that is true. It is kind of a bummer they went this direction.
A lot of kids just don't have that fatigue. To them, it's like, whoa, this is like it's their Breath of the Wild, basically.
Yeah,
a lot of even like younger people. So I guess, not the Breath, the Ocarina of Time. I mean,
okay, we're gonna talk about combat next, but I want final words. Do you, for each of you here,
like 30 minutes ago when you wanted final words? On the
no, I mean on this last one.
Yeah.
would you prefer, this is just personally, would you prefer this to be more like Bloodborne or Dark Souls 1, or do you like its open world design as it is? Beginning with you, Boghog.
Yeah, I would prefer it was more like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it. One thing I wanted to say is that even though I like Breath of the Wild more as an open world game, I don't like it more as a game overall.
Right.
You know, I actually think I prefer Elden Ring.
Okay, how about you, Aktane? What do you think?
Yeah,
do you like it as an open world now, or would you like it more like Dark Souls 1?
No, I want this to be Dark Souls 4. I don't want it to be an open world game. I have, in 31 hours, I have never clicked the crafting button once. I'm hoping that I'll keep playing it and never craft a single thing. I'm really praying that is possible.
Don't worry about it.
Because I don't know what the pots do, and
right.
I don't know what's going on, and I think like increasingly as I get older and play shmups and other games that have like a lot of gameplay density, to your point, Mark, it's like playing 2 hours. I spend the first 30 minutes of my Elden Ring playing experience going through my inventory and going like, what am I trying to do? Like, I don't know. Okay. And then I spend the next 45 minutes going from bonfire to bonfire and going like, where's the next boss? Because show me the next boss. I want to fight the next boss. I'm so excited to see the next boss. Where's the fucking next boss? God damn it. And you know, and then finally, maybe, because it hasn't happened every session, I find a boss or something to fight and have a good time doing it. I don't need the spaces in between and all that kind of stuff. Some of the discovery has been good. Most of the discovery has not really bore a lot of fruit to me. And then I saw some bosses that like kind of reappeared, and I didn't love that either. I would rather it just be more. I don't need it to be linear. I just need it to be more bespoke and maybe a little bit smaller.
Just tighter.
And mine would be, I agree with you two, except they better keep the horse, because by damn it, I want to ride around on that horse and slash the shit out of stuff. So keep the horse. Keep that horse in there. Just be on the horse almost half the game, and then I'll be happy.
I do want to mention though, like when I'm in the game, i.e. the castle, i.e. a dungeon, i.e. something meaningful and not the stupid open world that's there that I don't love that much, or when I'm in a boss fight, like, to just segue us into combat, like,
yes, we're talking about combat.
It feels, other than the fucking missed inputs, it feels really good.
Yeah,
so let's start off by talking about how you feel about this combat compared to the other Dark Souls games and Soulsborne game, whatever the hell this series is called. Like, how do you prefer it compared to those, Boghog? How does this rank for you?
Yeah, I prefer the combat. Like, mechanically, the combat is much better. There's more moves. The moves are more like clearly distinguished. They made the Ashes of War more interesting, like compared to the Dark Souls 3, whatever it was called, special attacks. Then there's like the stamina system that's really cool. The boss stamina system, where you whittle down their stamina and open them up for a crit. Then like the moves are distinguished, they're interesting. There's a lot of ways to dodge specific attacks. For example, ground pounds can be jumped over. Some high attacks can be ducked over with the jump. But the problem is, like, the enemy design really, the boss and enemy design brings it down. Like, Aktane mentioned how good it is, and it was good, really impressive for me like at first as well. But then slowly,
you were feeling it. I remember those Discord conversations. You were feeling it.
I think I said, like, they systematically went through every problem I had with Dark Souls and like fixed it, and that didn't last. That didn't last too long. Yeah, it's like I went through the game.
What did you think about the combat, Aktane?
Boghog spot on. I mean, the new moves are good, like the crouching attacks, the like standing, the rising attacks. You get some of that Tekken feel, you know. I get that rising too in there.
Yeah.
Some cool shit. Some like so like it's added on to the move set. I think that a couple criticisms that I have with the combat, because I think Boghog did a good job going through the positives, are that like I think the shortcut to get
criticism, brother.
What's that?
We'll get to the criticism. Don't you worry about that.
I think like on face value. Face value criticism is actually one thing you didn't mention is I think the shield counters are really cool. It took me a while to understand.
Oh, I like those too. Yeah, those are cool.
I really like those. I think they've opened the game up a ton, especially for slower weapons, and made the game more visceral. The movesets are amazing. All that stuff's really good. One thing we haven't talked about, and it's not really combat focused, but I do want to mention it, is the stealth. Like they mentioned the stealth at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And like they're like, oh, there's like some stealth kind of components to this game. And I did use it for a little bit, but I've found myself quickly discarding it in favor of running in head first with the horse and jumping off my horse in a frenzy of attacks of R1s and trying to like then work my way out of that situation. But that is kind of an important, I don't know, thing, like hiding in tall grass, whatever, all that kind of stuff. But I think that like they changed the shortcut for two-handing, first of all, and I hate it. Like this hold
I had to look it up
or whatever the fuck it is. It's stupid. Like it was a one button thing, and I was able to move in and out because especially the way they redid the LT stuff, like the power moves, the blue bar moves, whatever you want to call it. It's really interesting, right? So if you have a shield LT, that's the one that's going to come out. But if you have a weapon LT, if you're holding a shield and a sword or something, if you have a weapon LT, then you got to make sure you get a shield without an LT. I'm just saying LT as in left trigger, but without a blue move. I don't know what's called, skill move, whatever.
One sec. How did the two-handing weapons work in Dark Souls 1 and 2 and 3?
Why?
Because I believe that they did that because there's more switching between like left and right arm. They made it easier to switch between left and right arm. Because I don't remember. Yeah, I recall it being kind of unintuitive in the previous games. I think
they made that easier, and they made double handing hard.
Yeah, I had to look up how to double hand Boghog. I could not figure it out. I could not figure out how to double hand a weapon.
But I mean, that double handing right or left weapon, they made that easier, I believe.
No, I get that, but when are you double handing a shield, my friend? Like, like this seems like an edge case to ruin double handing for everyone else. Like
you have power stancing. You have power stancing different weapons, right? And they have separate ashes of war, so that it's actually a little bit. I guess you're not really using it much normally, but
no, you're gonna get the ashes of war from your LT anyways. No reason to double hand that for ashes.
No, but maybe
always override.
Oh, okay.
Right. So if you have a parry, and you have a different thing, you always get parry. You always get left hand.
Right. If you two-hand, you still get the parry.
If you two-handed, you get whatever brand new two-handed moveset is for the shield.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just trying to figure out why would you two-hand a shield? Like I get the idea of it, but make that a double combination and give me back my tap wide and double hand, my main fucking sword, and put the goddamn shield away the way it's supposed to be.
No, but what I mean is like imagine you have like one sword in the left hand, another sword in the right hand. They both have different ashes of war, right? Right?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and you can. Okay. Well, it's not
so
that
it's for
useful
dual handers. Is that why they made the change?
I get the change, but I think that like what you've done to the normal, like not normal, what you've done to most people who are shield and swording it, I would say, come on, like 75% of people who are playing this game got a shield, right? Like, come on, it has to.
Maybe they're
I think that those folks where I'm trying to like fucking two-hand so I can like hit this boss for a big amount of damage, and it's eating my inputs, and I have to hold Y and then hit R1. Whereas like in the previous games, it was just tapping Y to go back and forth. To then have more flexibility, which I agree with you. There is more flexibility the way they did it, because now you can two-hand either the left hand or the right hand, and that's really neat and interesting, and I like the depth there. But I feel like there could have been a more elegant way to
You're
not
saying
have
get your own input. Is that what you find your own input? Leave the two-hander input alone.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a quick point on the stealth, because I hadn't heard too much about the stealth, but I am a fan of stealth combat. And I picked up on it on my own in that first, the first enemy camp. That is straight up a stealth level.
That's basically
it's a stealth level. Because I figured out like, oh shit, you can stealth people, and I went around. I felt like I was playing Hitman, and I stealth killed everyone in the entire level except the final boss, or the big boss guy there.
The big dude with the like bat or whatever.
And then I got absolutely destroyed by that guy until I discovered the horse and the magic of running around and hitting him with the horse attack.
Double jumping on people's faces, yeah.
Yeah, the shield counters are interesting, because at first I thought they straight up replaced parries with them, right? I was like, oh, this is actually really cool, because now you have like a really elegant system. You have a stamina bar that decreases with attacks, but also decreases with like pseudo parries or whatever. But nah, they still have fucking parries. So it didn't really fix anything much at all. Now you can still like cheese out bosses by parrying them over and over.
What's wrong with that? That's a skill move.
It reduces the game too much to simple timing. space, like, unless you're fighting two
but
bots.
you're talking about such a high level of skill that, like, for example, like, Mark, would you say third strike is reduced to simple timing just because you can
No, you can't compare.
you parry everything?
You can't compare it to a multiplayer game, because multiplayer games are about prediction, right? But here you have patterns. You can read the patterns and you can react to them. It's like Simon Says, right?
Bog doesn't like parrying, though, because you don't like parrying in Fight and Rage either. And I think it's brilliant and beautiful and wonderful, and it makes me happy.
I like parrying I like parrying in Stranger of Paradise. That game's amazing when it comes to parry systems. Because the great thing it did is it limited parry. So you have, like, every time you parry, it takes away some of your... What? No,
limiting my parries? Fuck that.
No. Listen. It, like, takes away a bit of your parry.
Video games.
There's, like, a parry stamina. It takes away a bit of your parry stamina, right? So you can...
I will say this, but I will back up Boghog
don't
here.
Limit me. Like,
because
I want games. Listen,
a lot of
man,
games
I'll
with
tell you
heavy
why.
parry mechanics. Here's an example. A lot of games with heavy parry mechanics, they have throws that enemies do to counter your parries, and that's sort of the way the system gets completed. Does Elden Ring have throws? I don't know if it does or not. Like, if you sit there and try and parry, will the boss be like, "You're not parrying this," and he'll grab and throw you?
It does, but they're rare, and I think they might actually be parryable, at least some of them. I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but it just, like, the thing is, like, it reduces the game too much to you can stand still and wait for the boss to attack and then parry, and that's what I don't like.
That's a little much, yeah. I agree
don't
there.
Think it's that much. I don't think it's that high skill either. Like, it's high skill when you're not used to it. But imagine you, like, start off deciding to start parrying every boss. You learn to parry them, and it's not that different from rolling. In some ways, it might even be easier sometimes.
Well, that's the thing. It's like parry or roll. You're talking about just a solution to the boss fight, and you still have to learn all the attacks and know the timings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Or no?
Yeah, but rolling is more dynamic because there is stamina to manage. So if you roll one attack, like, it feeds into the next. Space sometimes matters. As well. Yeah.
What if they nerf the parry a little bit, though? Like,
rolling has less risk, though. If you parry and miss your parry, you just get bopped in the head and probably die.
Well, yeah, that's true, but it's
if
like...
you miss your roll, you're not going to die, probably. You're just going to, like...
Right.
I
guess the question is, do you think it's balanced, or do you think the parry is OP? Is that what you or do you not want to parry at all? I guess those are the questions.
I think it's OP. I think it's like, if you integrate it into your moveset, it just becomes too dominant. You're not using anything else at that point. That's why I brought up Stranger of Paradise, because it has that parry stamina. It has really, really strong parries. You can, like, parry. The timing is lenient. You can parry everything in the game practically.
But there's stamina.
Except throws, yeah. But there's stamina, and you can recover that stamina. So what you do is you pick out which attacks you want to parry and which attacks you want to dodge, right? And then you sometimes you space, and you can also cancel the stamina recovery quicker by switching jobs. So there's, like, a lot of you can parry. The parries are strong. They're really effective. They're really good. But you're limited, and you have to choose when to use them, basically. And then high level players find some ways around it by switching classes and stuff and timing.
What do you think, Aktane? In your experience, are you seeing a lot of people, like, abusing parry, or is this sort of an edge case in your opinion?
Yeah. A lot of soul level 1 runs are parry abuse. Like, for example,
I don't play with the fucking hardcore kids, man. I just, like, put the game in. In fact, I'm playing Elden Ring completely offline because Xbox is like, "Yeah, you want to pay for Xbox Live Gold?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." So I'm just playing the game offline in a blind corner. I haven't looked anything up. I've talked to a couple of players about the game, but I haven't looked at any level 1 runs. I'm just a casual gamer, guys.
You know what's interesting? If you have online enabled, you'll see a lot of messages like people, "Oh, item ahead? No, nothing." All over the world, there's so many of those messages. Like, people expect a lot of items when they explore, but they just get nothing over and over.
Nice.
Well, I haven't found a single illusory wall, so that's kind of disappointing.
They're really
so far.
rare, extremely rare.
But I mean, back to the combat. Like, yes. I don't know. Like, I think, like,
I'm hesitant to nerf the parries just because some people, if you're a parry man, you love the parries, and I don't know if the average dude is coming in and just destroying the game via parrying. But the parry man, I mean, he comes in, he wants to parry, and there's no more parry. That's rough time. So I'm not sure if I would get rid of the parry or nerf it. I haven't seen anything that seems too dominant, but, like, I could see if you're, like, a speedrunner or if you're, like, a real high-level player and you have to parry to keep up with the meta. I could see that being annoying. So I can see both sides of it, but I just don't want to... I wouldn't probably take it away because the parry man, he wants his parry.
But I feel like they have a solution to this in the form of shield counters, right? They have an elegant solution. Where
but a shield counter is kind of like
different.
baby parry mode. Like it's more. I think you like it because it's like more tied to meter and it's more like gameplay. Like it's like if you map it down on paper,
you can get hit and you can miss and all this shit. Like when you shield parry, like you can fuck up. Like there's a lot of ways to fuck that up.
Yeah, maybe like if they added some faster attacks for less stamina damage or slower attacks, you get to choose what kind of counter you do after the shield. I'm not actually sure how. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like on paper, I think you're right, Bog. But there's also this subsect of players that I feel like I would be in this group who they just want to parry shit and like kind of have it a little bit busted, and they kind of enjoy that it's a little bit busted. And if you take away their parry, it's not fun.
Yeah, but I'm not talking as a developer. I'm just talking as a gamer. So fuck them, I don't care.
No, parry man.
Too bad.
No, but I think you also said in Stranger of Paradise the parries are easier to perform, and so you're taking the skill away and you're making but I'm not fucking here to do meter shit. Like I don't want. In fact, if you remove the meters from the game in some way and it would make the game better to me. Like
hell yeah, now we're talking.
And not have any fucking
no meters, baby.
Meter.
Like what?
Stranger of Paradise only has the parry meter. No, nothing else. Go play it, dude. Go play the meter.
Yeah, Stranger of Paradise is good, but we're talking like. If they could remove the meters from Dark Souls, I would be a happy boy. Because they'd have to start going into more character action territory at that point.
I don't mind, like, there's got to be better ways to limit things than like resource management, I think. But I do.
But it is an RPG. That's the issue.
Exactly.
You start taking that away, you end up
resource management.
You end up in my house where we're playing Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden, which I like. I'd be 100% down with that. But I think as a genre, the dude who loves to min-max and stats and stuff, he goes to play Elden Ring 2 and there's no meters. He has to like hard counter everything and stuff. He's like, what the hell happened? So that is sort of a balancing act.
I wonder if it's this. Like, do you guys think that Elden Ring is trying to be all things to all people?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
That's one of the biggest issues, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's
but it does a pretty damn good job. That's what's impressive about it. Like
it's doing 8 out of 10 on everything.
Yeah, that's the thing about it.
Maybe 9 out of 10 on certain things.
That's why I think in some ways, like the combat, I'll bring in my thoughts on the combat. I enjoyed the combat, and getting me to enjoy an action RPG combat is not an easy task, but it was just enough on the action side where you have the jumps, you have the rolls, you have the parries, you have the counters. Everything it's a lot more brisk and quick than Dark Souls 1 where it takes an hour to do anything. I would like to see that input buffer come down though, because sometimes that input buffer is insane. I'll swing and so many things have happened in between when I hit the button to swing. I'm like, no, don't swing now, don't do it. So
more canceling. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think they could have brought down that buffer a bit. I think it would have helped the game more. And I think that's one reason why you're losing some inputs, Aktane. I think it's that buffer. I think the buffer is eating your inputs.
Like, the game does not feel as tight as the previous games, period. Like, it doesn't feel as tight. It should be a little tighter, a little faster in a way. And it just doesn't live up to that tightness for me, if I'm honest. But I think, like, as far as, like, all the different weapons, the one-handed, the two-handed, one hand with a shield, now you got all... Like, there's just so much variety there that you can kind of forgive it for being a little bit loose because there is so much to do. And I think, like, one of the things that's super important that we can't forget as far as, like, if you
and I did like the stealth. I don't know. Did you guys like... Before we left, did you guys like the stealth? I liked it. I thought it was fun. I stealth killed a lot of stuff.
I just stopped using it because I want to fight things.
I literally never used it once.
I used it like for 10 hours and then I was like, nah, fuck this.
I was doing stealth even in the castle. I was running around stealth killing stuff in the castle. Yeah.
I did stealth kill that one guy on the walkway.
Yeah.
There's like two dudes and they come and then turn around.
That encounter is tough because
that guy kicked my ass, so I had to stealth that fucker. Also, I stealth people like who like kick my ass the first time around. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna try to find a way to backstab you.
On paper, I'd agree with you guys that on paper, like if you're looking at the mechanics, like okay, you could pull a great action game out of this, but that's where like the enemy design really messes me up because it does not feel like a fun if you play it as a pure action game. It stopped being fun at a certain point. And I feel like a lot of the other mechanics are really underdeveloped. For example, if I go like, okay, I'm gonna play a mage, what am I gonna do? Just stay out of range and fucking zap them, pew, 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 for 10 minutes. I don't know, well, not 10 minutes.
But Boghog, I think Devil May Cry 5 with V has taught us is action from a distance ever going to be good, ever going to be interesting? I've yet to see it outside of giving you a gun and you start shooting a gun. Have that. Has a mage ever been interesting ever?
Yeah.
I can't really speak to it because I haven't played this part of the game as deep, and I want you, Boghog, to speak to it in length here in a second. But I think part of what you're saying is if you force a mage to do some close combat or tie up elemental types, learn something a different trade or a different craft, they have to either get some items from someplace or I have to figure out what elemental type this boss is. Something that a regular soldier would never have to do, but a mage would have to do to make things a little bit more dicey and interesting versus I have my one big old spell that kills almost everything, and so I'm just going to sit back and sort of do that. That's what makes Oblivion and Morrowind and those other games better on the mage side. Is just you have lightning, two-handed lightning, you have this and that and whatever else. I don't find any of that shit interesting at all, personally. If I'm going to play Pokemon, I'm going to go play fucking Pokemon. I like Pokemon. There's no reason for me to bring Pokemon to my Dark Souls or my Ninja
if you want to
Gaiden.
shoot stuff from a distance, get a gun.
But I just mean the elemental stuff where you're doing multiple alchemies and shit like that, where you're trying to you're role-playing as a true mage.
Right. Well, I'm going to bring up Stranger of Paradise again, because that game.
I haven't played this game.
No one has played that fucking game except me, and it's so good.
No. It's in the public eye. It's in the public eye. My podcast, my non-Shmup podcast, I've been talking about it. So it's people are going to play it.
I got the demo on PS4, Boghog, but the demo on base PS4, the resolution is 360p or something. It is so low.
I mean, it should be perfect for you. Throw it on your CRT.
That's what I'm saying. I'm used to low resolution, and I'm complaining.
PS2, it's a PS2 or early PS3 tribute, practically.
Yeah. So I'll probably get it on my Xbox One X, so I can actually see the game when I play it at some point. Right. But it is interesting. So you're saying that they figured out some sort of mage system?
They have some more interesting. It's not perfect, obviously. It still has a lot of the issues. But one of the things it does with spells is they have pretty big cast times and the little tiers. You can get the low tier spells pretty quickly, and you have to stand still and cast for a while to get the bigger tier spells. But you can interrupt the cast with a dash, and it continues your cast after the dash.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
That's some Team Ninja stuff right there.
Yeah, it has some interesting buffs. Like the classic Final Fantasy buffs. Haste, they actually speed your character up. Your character actually starts running around really fast, casting spells really fast, doing charge attacks really fast. Then it allows you to stack just these kind of emblems. If you cast several spells in a row, then you can get rid of all your buffs to cast an even bigger and more powerful spell. So you kind of stack a few buffs. And, there's a lot of prep time, and then you get a big reward for it. It's still kind of busted, but it's really fun, I think. It's a lot, but in Elden Ring, the problem is they do so much, and a lot of these playstyles just kind of suck. It's you get a big laser that you can just stand and spam, and the bosses just a lot of the bosses either sit there or they even walk into it. Then you have spirit ashes. You summon spirit ashes, and the bosses just attack them. They don't.
Yes.
They don't aggro.
That's a huge criticism that I agree with, because there's this one boss where I literally practiced it for 10 hours to do a no hit, full dodge, low stats kill, and it worked, and it was really fun. And I was looking up just some strategy ideas, and one guy just summoned wolves and killed the boss. Yep. I was like, all right, so that's all you have to do is summon wolves, and the boss dies.
Dude, the hardest boss in the game, someone found a way to solo them by using a summon. Just not solo them, but they summoned the spirit ashes, stood in a corner, and the spirit ashes soloed the hardest boss in the game. Just the AI NPC, and they weren't even particularly over leveled, if I remember correctly. So it just there's a lot of playstyles, and most of them feel they're not really fleshed out.
Yes, so but that happens in these character action RPGs, because Neo 2, I had this. You remember the owl boss in Neo 2?
Yeah.
I practiced against that boss for hours and hours. This is such a hard boss. Then I watched a guy. He just put poison freeze on the little I can't remember what that is. That weapon that you spin around. Yeah. He just put it on that and killed it in 5 seconds. I was like,
yeah, but
all right.
yeah, but the thing with buffs is they're not a playstyle, right? The buffs aren't. Oh yeah, I'm the buff man. I just put buffs before a boss. It's like using items practically, so it feels distinct. But in Elden Ring,
but they were so OP in Nioh 2. I know you. I like Nioh 2. We all like Nioh 2, but it was so OP that he did it in like one hit. It was like dead.
It's a problem, but I think it's a bit of a different issue. The issue is like Aktane saying, there's a lot of playstyles, but you have to commit to the playstyles. If they were
I didn't say no. Huh? I don't know about the different playstyles. I just think there's a lot of different move sets.
A lot of stuff you can do.
No, but you're saying like it has a bit for everyone, right?
I think he meant in more like a melee combat sort of sense.
I meant so because I'm not a mage dude, so I don't know how to describe that. Like I did do a little bit of range stuff in Elden Ring, and it seems okay. It's kind of interesting, but it's not amazing. But I just meant more like, like a rapier versus a short sword versus a twin blade versus a big sword versus like a shield. If you just want to bang things down with a shield, you can.
Or I saw a dude
two-hand
fight with
a big ass shield
the entire game.
Yeah, that
just hit people with the fucking shield.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a play style necessarily, because you make a strong point. But I definitely think that fighting a dude with a two-handed shield versus a set of twin daggers is a different experience.
Yeah, well, I think some of the stuff, like some of the melee stuff, it does pretty well. I especially like Spirit Ashes, because you can get like the Bloodborne dash by using Spirit Ash. Yeah,
you can and let's keep in mind, like, again, this game trying to be all things to all people. And I think our biggest criticisms have been that the game doesn't force you to engage with a lot of the more interesting mechanics, or when it does force you to engage with them, they're too simple or too easy to understand.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of that is like, and you think about the Spirit Ashes or whatever, they're equipable, unequipable. Do you lose them? Nope. You can fucking play around with them like they're materia in Final 7 or whatever. Like, you literally can just experiment. And I think in a lot of ways, this game does feel like a big experiment by the studio.
It does.
And I think in places they tried and they nailed it. And I think in places the weight of the experiment collapsed upon itself. And I think, like, the question I would have is, do you think that like the majority of people experiencing this game are going to find those little like cheap niches, and is that going to ruin their enjoyment of the game like it did yours? Or is it just going to be like, oh, Elden Ring was easier for me than the guy down the street because I ended up like being a mage and just sitting back? But like, was
Spirit
it still fun? Was the boss design still cool? Yeah. Like, was the experience still interesting? Maybe they got into the lore. I don't fucking know. If you're doing nothing all day.
In some limited ways, it does affect average players, because, the thing is, when you have so much broken stuff, you just kind of feel like an idiot if you don't use it, You're just going to feel like a dumbass.
Right.
Like, I agree with that.
That is true.
Yeah. I agree with that, but I think that that's a product of any game. Like, honestly. Like
these
for example,
character action RPGs especially.
It is, but then...
Well, even like shmups, dude. Like, you feel like such a fucking moron. Like, if you're playing AL and DDP, and that's just a ship that you decided to pick, or AS or something, and you've been grinding for 100 hours, and you come out of your cave, and everyone's just like eating a sandwich in one hand and doing CS with the other hand, and one-alling like, and you're just like, why am I? What am I, a moron? Like, I'm a moron, right? Like, I'm an idiot.
They do score split.
What am I
ships,
doing?
Though.
And so I think like every game, like not every game, a lot of games have severe balancing issues. It's even harder to lever severe balance issues to an open world game with 500 weapons or whatever, and like stances, and like, to me, I mean, it's just too difficult.
Oh yeah, kind of criticize the approach they took. What the fuck did I want to say? Oh yeah, like, it's true, but that varies. It's like a spectrum of how broken stuff is and how intuitive it is. Because sometimes, like, when I played pure melee, not using shields, just like pure a claymore, two-handed claymore, rolling, hit armor. That's it. Nothing else. I didn't even use Ashes of War much, besides like just playing around with them. And then I just felt like the game wasn't really balanced around it. It made me feel like an absolute idiot for even playing.
Right.
It's like, okay, the boss takes almost no damage. Then if I did even something simple like use the bleed weapon, I'd immediately like shred their HP. But then I attack and the boss takes no damage. They keep spamming attacks, like they keep spamming these insane like Marvel versus Capcom combos, and you can't even and you can't get a hit in. And it's like, it was just designed so someone Spirit Ashes, so I can like get them distracted and smack them around, or what am I even doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying
I think
too wide.
Yeah, I'm trying to estimate the how they designed it. I'm trying to estimate what kind of playstyles they're balanced it around, and I just don't get it. I have no clue how they wanted me to play
Totally
this game.
fair.
Yeah, and that's
and
why
I think
that's
that happens. I talked to other players about this too. I think that happens as the game progresses. Like I think it starts off, it puts its stronger foot forward in the beginning because it's like it's more contained as far as what the player can do. Like that first boss fight.
And also the bosses are better designed overall. The first, like the second, well, not the second boss, but what's his name? The guy that grafts a lot, like the witness, you know, that guy. Yeah, that guy's really.
I don't know. I don't know what his name is because I killed him my second try. Like I literally turned the recording on. I died the first try and killed him a second try because I summoned the jellyfish. And
oh yeah.
I don't know.
I like that boss because that boss like is really well designed because he does like single attacks or like really short combos. You can punish them. A lot of his attacks are punishable if you jump over them. Like, there's a learning curve to it. But then the later bosses just get such insane combos, and they do this thing where they, like in previous Dark Souls bosses, and they do like 3 hits and then they stop. They'd freeze and you could hit them, right? These bosses do 3 hits, then they wait, and as soon as you move in to hit them, they fucking do 20 more hits as a combo. They fucking jump in the air, they dodge, they throw shuriken. It's so insane. Like you just, it feels like it's designed so you could like pull, so something could pull aggro, and you would get some more chances to attack them.
So are you saying like the later you get, the less the pure melee claymore build becomes viable, and you're sort of forced to, all right, now I gotta pull out some spells or some shit?
It's viable, but it's not fun. It just becomes less and less fun as you progress. It feels like you're meant to play a little bit of everything, like when the boss is doing his crazy anime combo, you could stand aside and just shoot some magic spells. Then when they're doing more reasonable attacks, you can maybe roll in and take a few slashes. Sometimes it feels like you're meant to pull aggro with the summons, or the spirit ashes. So it just feels really weird. I can't even estimate what the developers intended. And
I think that what the developers intended is they took each of the bosses and said, well, the average player, like it's like the law of averages, right? It's like you play a certain type of play style, you roll up on this boss and it just kicks your ass. But if you play a different kind of play style, maybe it's easy for this boss, but you go to the next boss that play style and it kicks your ass because you're a different type of player, and then you got to figure that out. It almost feels like, and I haven't gotten further in the game, right? So I don't know the answer to this, but what you're describing to me reminds me of just like a breadth issue of like, there's so much going on, there's so many systems at play, and min-maxing them is too powerful, ignoring them is too weak, and that the game wants you to find the balance between them, and then you were struggling to find a good balance of competitiveness that's like not fully min-maxed, where things are just dying in one hit, and not fully weak, where you're just scratching the boss and you're not able to like do just a pure dodge. And I think what's funny about this statement to me is that like in previous games, I would be headstrong and try to do, like you said, like do things that obviously the game didn't want me to do. Like in the first game, for a while I never had a lightning weapon, and I would just go into places and just get wrecked. And then when I finally made like a lightning spear or something, like things just started to die to like lightning. The dragons, I think in particular, just started to like die to like lightning. And I was like, okay, now they're just dying. But I felt good about that because I was just like, oh, I figured it out. Like I kind of figured out the puzzle here of just like, the puzzle isn't in the combat in this case. The puzzle is in the spec, right? And so the question that I would ask you is that like, there's the breadth of bosses. To you, I think what you're looking for is a full combat experience where the entire puzzle or most of it's in the combat. And I think some people are saying that the puzzle is in the spec itself. You're saying that's really easy. Like it's easy to spec towards that puzzle, but I don't know if that's going to be easy for everyone as they're exploring the game and trying to figure out what is effective against this boss. And maybe something is over effective or whatever, but like that process, that experience for you, I think sounds like it was frustrating, but it feels like for most people, they're going to be throwing shit at the wall to try and figure out what's going to work against this guy. And when it does work, they're not going to be like, oh, that was too easy. I think they're going to be like, great, let's move on to the next boss of this 120-hour game. Like, I've got 85 bosses behind this one. Let me go to the next one and figure out what's going to stick, what's going to hit the wall on that one.
Well, kind of. It depends on how you view the game. I view like the combat as the bread and butter. I feel like the games are designed with the basic combat mechanics in mind, and then everything is built on top of that. Or at least they used to. So I feel like if the stats trivialize them, I feel like they just make the combat less interesting. And if the combat itself,
I guess a good question is, but does this issue appear in like Dark Souls 1 or Bloodborne or something?
Nope. Not at all.
Okay, it's Elden Ring specific.
I've seen magic builds in Dark Souls 1 that didn't do anything that I had to do. I had to fucking dodge everything.
No, listen, Aktane. No, Aktane, you're misunderstanding. The issue isn't that like the magic builds are OP. It's that if you're not using magic, it feels the basic like bread and butter combat feels not fun. It feels really frustrating. And
I haven't gotten to that point in the game yet where it's too hard to just like.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't gotten that far.
But I've heard that from players.
But you know, the game's
they're like, dude,
huge.
magic is important. I'm like,
And Bog stuck it out to the bitter end, and you gotta.
I got so.
You gotta give him that.
Yeah, I got some. Like the problems are that just what I described. The bosses have such ridiculous combos with like randomized delays, they trick you, they bait you into punishing, and then you continue the combo. Rough. But then sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have these really, really quick attacks that are really hard to react to. They put shit all over the arena. Like there's so much frustrating stuff going on. So it feels like the most effective way to play combat is just bait safe moves that you can punish and wait until the boss does them and then just punish and run away. Otherwise, like space yourself out and stay outside the range, because the bosses turn into fucking AoE attacks. They just circle the arena. They slicing all over the place.
Wow.
It feels like in Dark Souls 3, the DLC specifically had bosses like that where I just had to play so conservative, like I could not go toe to toe with them, probably underleveled or something. I'm always underleveled in these games, guys.
Me too.
I just don't save my souls. Like I'm just always like, people are like, "Oh, what level are you? 33?" Like, what? How? I'm 82. Like, it's
actually never played the DLC. I gotta go back and play it because
the point I'm trying to make is that like I do feel like in previous games at my skill level of being a shitty gamer, there were definitely bosses where I'm like, I'm never gonna figure this attack out. I just have to like figure out how to like cheese or figure out how to bait a particular attack, maybe by running very far away and they do an attack where you're very far away, they do a particular charge or something, or if you're very, very close, they do like what looks like a really hard attack to dodge, but if you're like up in their nuts, it's not too bad, and you just do like some dodges or something. But I don't know, like to me, like that is frustrating, and I agree with you, but it's always been frustrating for all the games from like that. To me, that whole like getting your ass kicked, I think people are searching for that from this game. I think they want randomized bullshit, Mike Tyson punch out type shit, where it's just like if you don't know exactly what you're doing and you aren't very, very patient, I think it seems like they took that slider and cranked it to the max at the end of this game, to where it's like almost you have to be almost too patient, basically is what you're saying. It's like almost too unfun. Like, but that's how I felt one was when I played the Gaping Dragon for the first time. I was like, I swear it took me 2 hours.
I hate that boss. It's so boring. But anyway,
what if it's a bit of sneaky level game design though, Bog? I really wish I was better at the series so I could really tell. But like, think of in
I'm not good
Shmups,
at it.
For example, where they have the 2-loop system where in Dodonpachi, for the expert players, the challenge is keeping that chain, and then the second loop,
keeping the claymore.
Now you have basic survival difficulty. What if this is like a bit of game design on FromSoft's part, where they're like, okay, we see you super players out there, and you think you're so slick and badass. Let's put this shit out here for you, just to, so the noobs can just use spells or whatever bullshit the noobs are gonna do. But for the hardcore Mr. Perry guy, we got a present for you, and here it is. Do you think that's possible?
It is possible. I think what happened is they like didn't want to overhaul the mechanics completely, but they also couldn't make the games in the same vein as the previous ones, because people get really good at them. People get insanely good at Souls games. They play them so much. So the only choice they had to do is to do things like
RNG.
RNG, increase like the combos, make them more difficult, add like AoE attacks, just fuck with the player basically. And I think that's a mistake. The main issue is, like, for example, you can dodge, you can punish a lot of attacks that seem kind of unpunishable in Elden Ring, but I feel like the difference there is that the punishments are so unintuitive and weird that you can't like smoothly progress towards them. For example, there's a boss where you get how do I even describe this? Okay, there's a better example. There's a boss near the end where they do an attack, a ground pound attack, and the way to dodge it isn't to roll or to jump, because those are both inconsistent. The way to dodge that attack is to go kind of towards the boss and confuse their tracking, right? Confuse the tracking of the model and misdirect the whole attack, and that's so fucking weird. I did not have to do.
Mark, there's shmups in this game.
Yeah, playing in Elden Ring.
Hardcore point blank misdirect.
Yeah. Well, playing in Elden Ring Melee felt like playing Soul Level 1 runs in the previous games, where it's like a lot that solutions become so technical and weird.
Right. That's a good point, because I was looking this up at Aktane for a certain boss fight, where I was like, okay, I want to find the most hardcore strat that these players are doing, like what he's saying, where level 1 naked with a club type strats.
Yeah.
And the stuff they were showing was hilariously insane and technical, but I kind of found it interesting. Like, you have to de-lock the camera, you have to run in, and you have to stand on his left arm as the camera de-locks, and you have to roll a certain way, and you have to attack. I mean, I was a little bit impressed with it, though, but I don't know with the later boss fights if it gets to be out of hand.
Yeah.
Or not.
It gets even more silly. Like, there's an attack that people initially thought was completely undodgeable unless you're playing a specific build. Now they found a way to like abuse the AI to such an extent where they can redirect the attack and do very, very specific dodges. It's so obscure. It's so fucking weird. It definitely feels like you're speedrunning a game, like the kind of strats you're using. It feels less like you're just naturally learning the patterns.
And most players are basically, I think what I get my Bog's coming from now. I think what he's saying is that middle tier is getting owned, because the noobs can just abuse spells, or the hardcore ultra speedrunner dudes can find their little one frame link into the safe spot. But the average man who wants to dodge roll these later bosses, they're not for you. You're gonna get owned hard.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a very good time, I think. And the thing is, like,
I agree. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. But I think the average person would also do this thing where they're like, well, I feel underleveled. I'm gonna need to be able to tank this in some way, like get a bigger shield or get something that can actually tank this.
That's not gonna work for long. Right? That's not gonna work for long, because the bosses eventually start two-shotting you, almost all of them. And on top of that, like, you can max out.
What if you're summoning? But aren't you summoning like jellyfish and shit that they're fighting most of the time?
No, I never did. But like, if you
that's what I'm saying. That's sub-average. That's sub-average. You're ignoring an entire mechanic, and you're experiencing.
Okay, so now you're blaming me for ignoring the mechanic, even though. See, like you said, it's not that much of a problem.
I'm not blaming you. I'm saying the average person would not ignore that. Like I did. I haven't.
I don't know. A lot of well, it's not like average. It's more like people who play action games like a challenge, like a fun challenge.
I agree, but I'm just you're right. But I'm just saying, like, it's like rolling up to a particular boss in the shmup and just like bombing the fuck out of them, and then like if you don't want to, it's really, really hard or obscure or difficult to like miss them. To me, it's like the summons or whatever. Like, I'm using summons. If there's a character in the world who's like, hey, I'll help you with this fight, I'm like, fuck yeah, why would I not? Why would we not do this? Get your ass in here. We got to fight this fucker together. Like, I'm going to do that. And I think that if you're purposefully not, this is the point I'm trying to make. If you see something that says, here's the nuke button, and you go, nah, I'm not hitting that, right? I think at that point you're in a different tier of gamer, to your point, like intermediate or whatever, like action game, whatever that is. But you're purposefully ignoring DPS because you want to solo or you want to do whatever.
I expect the games to be fun when I do that, basically.
And I agree with you. And maybe they're not. Maybe they're not fun, right? But my presupposition is that they gave you these things. You should be using these things. And if the games are too easy, then that's the question. I think that would be a better, more interesting dilemma for you. Is that, like, I used the Spirit Ashes. The game was too easy.
Yeah, they are.
Or not Spirit Ashes, sorry, but like the summons.
The wolves and stuff. That was crazy. Yeah, but maybe what you have to do, maybe I think what he's saying is
it really that easy?
It has to push you. It has to push you into that higher skill tier if you want to use the
problem isn't like I don't think the problem is necessarily difficulty, because like, it's not that difficult. I even found Stranger of Paradise. I played it hard on solo, and I found that harder than Elden Ring overall. But like the problem is that it's just not fun to engage with the bread and butter combat.
I get that.
Yeah, like it's too skewed towards the enemy's favor. Like they do these combos, you don't get to punish them. Like even dodging
I'm
them.
actually experiencing some of that. I think now in my playthrough, where it's like I'm looking at it. Like there was this particular enemy that you have to break their stance, or you don't hurt them at all, right?
Yep.
Like you can't do anything. Like they just don't take damage until you break their stance and knock them underneath.
It's even worse than that. And why I said like stats won't help. It's that they don't have enough punish windows. They just don't give you enough time to.
Yeah. No, I'm getting there. So I'm with you. What I'm saying is this particular enemy, you have to like hit, dodge, back away, wait for your stamina to regen, hit, dodge.
Eventually.
After a while.
Yeah.
Do you think, because I've heard this as well, like, do you think what happened is that maybe FromSoft overstretched themselves a little bit with all the stuff? When they get near the end, they're like, fuck, we can't. I can't come up with another damn boss fight. Let's
absolutely not, actually. That's one of the things I disagree with. Like, people say they're lazy or whatever. No.
I'm saying, do you think they bit off more than they could chew?
No,
like, they're just running out of stuff to do with all these boss fights. They're like, okay, we have 1 billion bosses. We're running out of ideas here, homie.
No, because the bosses feel unique. They feel really high effort. They're like they gave them so much attacks. The AI is so complex. Like they have like all these punishes. They program them in interesting ways where they like delay attacks based on what you're doing, how proximity and all that stuff. They really put effort into it. I think it was
sounds like some retro gaming shit that I want to no part of, that I'm gonna head first into in like my 80th hour. But
dude, bosses just start punishing every time you sip Estus. They just have specific.
I hate that.
They input read and just immediately punish unless you're.
Jeez.
So yeah, you're gonna have fun with that. But I don't think it's a lack of ideas. I think it's just literally they wanted to make the game more difficult, and they didn't do it in a very good way. They kind of made it in a. They just made it too frustrating. They didn't.
More spam, basically. They're like, just increase spam. Note to developers. Like, increase spam.
Yeah, it feels like the enemy does their dance, and you're barely part of that unless you optimize your break gauge damage.
I'll go the other way.
Neo 2 has a little bit of that too, though. I will say. Neo 2.
No.
There's more spam going on in that one too.
Yeah, but no, I don't think so. Because. Well, maybe, but the combos are really short, and you can punish them pretty much.
Then they do this
attack.
Stupid realm thing where it drains your stamina, and you just have to hang in there and wait for that to go by.
No, you don't. You can just fight them. You can just kill them right there. You can also activate your. But
that's the parry thing you were talking about. Like now you're Mr. Parry Pants when you have to do that stuff. It's but
the parry is more limited there. It's not like a. It's only restricted to server. But anyway, Neo is better because like it has shorter boss attacks. Even if the bosses attack really frequently, you get like a punish. Like if I could compare it, it's like the ratio is for each of the bosses like 2-3 attacks in Neo, you get like 2 or 3 attacks yourself. In Elden Ring, for each like 8 boss attacks, you get 1 slash. Maybe. Sometimes.
Yeah. It's true.
I remember I ran into that myself. Like I think a boss fight went on for about 20 minutes for me at one point. And that was like a good fight. Like where I didn't get any. I don't think I ever got hit. It took me 20 minutes. Just waiting out all the attacks.
You guys think 20 minutes is long? I think I have like
that is an insanely long boss fight, my dude.
I think they're all over 40 minutes.
No, but wait, didn't Mark say that like a one attempt took 20 minutes?
No, I did. And my no miss kill of the boss took 20 minutes to do.
Yeah, yeah. What the fuck, dude?
Hold on. I could look
long
this up
time,
right
dude.
Orphan
it took
of
forever.
Cause. I'm pretty sure my entire Orphan of Cause fight took me like 45 minutes in Bloodborne. Like the fight, just the one fight where I beat him. Something like that.
Fuck?
Like,
okay.
I just thought these games were like that. I just thought these games were like that.
I like playing games aggressively. Like even if I die a lot more, I like optimizing my damage a little bit. You know, like going aggressively, punishing wherever I can, finding punish windows.
All right, I was wrong. It didn't take me that long.
How much did it take?
Oh, it was like a 7-minute fight. I must be thinking of something else.
40 minutes. Oh my god. Okay, that would be like.
I'm telling you, there were fights in Dark Souls games that have taken me 40 minutes for sure. Like
maybe Ornstein Smoke or something.
Yeah, maybe like an Ornstein or Smog, or like the Knights of Astoria or something like that, where you have to fight them in the basement. I don't know. Like, Like, you know, but the thing is, it's a game style thing, right? Because for me, I'm so scared of getting hit. I feel like I'm gonna die once I get hit.
Right.
So I'm only taking like life suck when I can. Like I'm like, ooh, I got an R1, boom, and then I'm out of there.
I'm the most greedy motherfucker on the planet. I will like attack a boss when he's winding up and just hope that I have like 1 frame left to dodge. And most of the time, like, I have a lot of fun with games like that. Like when Neo,
I do a bit of that.
I remember in Ninja Gaiden 2, I played it on Master Ninja, and it took me. It literally took me like a week to get through Master Ninja on that. And there was a boss fight in that game where I was literally punishing 1 slice at a time. And that's a lot of slices. Yeah. It was like 1 at a time. It did take me forever, and that's really unusual.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden bosses have a very similar issue where like they most of their attacks are so inconsistent and dangerous that you just like.
Yeah, but the thing with Ninja Gaiden 2 is that you have so many tools in that game. You can do so much. Whereas in Elden Ring, they did improve, but it's nowhere. It doesn't touch what you can do in Ninja Gaiden 2.
It sounds like Boghog, the change that you would make to the game is you would.
I can tell you exactly what I would do. I can tell you exactly what I would do.
Yeah,
I would limit the boss attacks to either 1 attack per. Like they do single attacks, or they do short combos up to 3 hits, maybe 4 sometimes. I would still keep the randomization between like timings, like the swing timings. I would randomize the attacks, and I would shorten the cooldowns in between attacks, but make sure that the players can always punish at least like with 1 hit. So basically, the bosses are more aggressive. They switch up their attacks more instead of going through like preset combos, but they can always just be punished. Like every time you dodge, every time you dodge an attack, you can deliver at least 1 hit or more. And that's the thing I would do, I think. And that's the thing that Neo does. Even like when bosses are really aggressive, they have a really good.
You can always get in at least 1 slice after a dodge.
Yeah. Another thing is Elden Ring bosses start dodging your fucking shit. Like they have they have recovery frames after a combo, and then they just cancel out of them with a dodge.
they do that. No, they do that, and that's actually really fucking annoying, by the way.
It gets so much fucking worse because some giant bosses jump to the other side of the fucking arena, and you have to chase them.
Yeah.
Sekiro did a little bit of that too. I remember.
Sekiro, yeah.
Well, I mean, Sekiro did some of that. Dark Souls 3 did a little bit of that, but I know exactly what you're talking about in Elden Ring. And it actually surprised me the first times it happens, where I was like, whiffing? And I was like, huh, what? Wait. I earned that. I earned the shit out of that.
You're like, oh, dude, that's a juicy punish. And then they fucking teleport behind you and stab you in the back.
Yeah, they stab you in the face. It's just... I agree with you. If that's your criticism, I don't have any big issues with changing that about the game. I haven't gotten further enough. It almost feels like they hedged more against, like, making the game so difficult that you had to use your summons and your and so it's like it's supposed to be like a 2-on-1, 1-on, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, and I don't think that you two find that to be very enjoyable. I don't know if I found it to be very enjoyable, because I did body the bosses when I summoned folks. So like I'm assuming that, and I thought it was okay. I'm assuming that as the bosses get harder, I will find it more enjoyable. Like, because they're going to get harder, but I'm still going to keep summoning. I'm not going to, like, leave DPS on the table. I'm just not. Now, I'm probably not going to go magic, because I'm not a magic dude. I'm not a range dude. So I'm definitely going to be, like, the Claymore guy or whatever, or the bleed guy, 100%. But I'm not going to, like, and I'm not going to use, like, items. I never use items in these games. Like, I just, like, I'm like, look, if they're one-use items, like, why would I waste them on an attempt? Like, sorry, I'm not doing it.
It does feel like they just counted on, like, someone's pulling aggro, so you can punish the bosses more often instead of just, like...
Yeah. Well, maybe what they did though, Bog, is that they balanced the game around the summon. They're like, okay, everyone's going to be summoning. We got to balance the boss fights around this.
It's too easy. And I think it's probably not, because he's a good player.
That is true. Isn't Elden Ring supposed to be easier, just in general? Isn't it supposed to be easier than the other games?
No, well, sort of. It's supposed to be easier because it gives you like a different order, but like overall the
it's everything. It's easier, it's harder, it's better, it's bigger, it's faster.
It's very hard.
It's all things to everyone.
It's both easier and harder at the same time. It has so much busted shit that it's easier and you can like approach it in different orders. But if you're like playing it like the other games, like a melee build with just rolls, then it's like the hardest one by far. It feels easier to do soul level 1 runs in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2 than it is just to beat Elden Ring, I think. It's been a while.
Okay, that helps bring it in perspective. That seems kind of cool, though. But I don't know. It seems kind of cool to me. I like that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be really cool if on replays, because there's a lot of randomization. It'll stay fresh, but the problem is they have no fucking boss rush modes. I don't feel like replaying the whole game just.
Yeah.
So I think you said what you would change about the game. I don't know if I've played enough to know what I would change about the game, but off the bat, I will say, like, making the world about half as big and having more bosses, less fodder. Like,
yeah.
There are some cool areas where it's like these are enemies, like there's some enemies of interesting stature, let's say, that do some really crazy shit to you. Like, it's hilarious. Like, there's some comical shit in that game. The crows and stuff. Like, there's some funny shit in that game. I think it's really neat. I think they could have designed the survival a bit better if they made the game a little bit smaller, because, like, you're right, like, Boghog, like, I'll, like, be, oh my god, I have, like, one Estus left, there's no bonfire anywhere, like, what am I doing? All I really have to do is get away from combat and then teleport, right? Like, there's no sense of danger. But I think there are places where they could have enemies corner you or chase you down a little bit more.
Right,
like, keep chasing you. So I do agree with that. And then I think the very last thing I would say is I think, and maybe they'll do this more. I hope. I haven't played enough of the game. I hope they lean into big scale battles with the horse, because I think that's new and it's fucking cool. Like,
I love the
big
horse.
scale
stuff.
Like, where like maybe something's chasing you, or like you're going, like, and Boghog, don't ruin it if it does, but like but like maybe if it's like a big ass boss arena where you literally have to use the horse to get from place to place. I think the horse has a lot of the most interesting, like, movement, because you have the jump, you have the double jump. I could see attacks,
and it's fast.
Like, remember Devil May Cry?
Hauls serious ass.
Yeah, it hauls ass. You remember, like, Devil May Cry, the very last boss that does the bullet hell shit with the lasers, and you have to, like, go, like, I could see that with the horse, where it's like,
I really wish I could spoil something right now. Oh god!
Like, don't do it. Don't fucking do it. I'll fucking stab you. I will backstab you right now. I will come up there. I'll do the dodge roll.
There's some heartbreaking stuff in this.
But I think that, like, that's the stuff that, if you want to talk about, like, DLC or, like, more engaging, like, honestly, if there's a DLC to this game that is like the Bloodborne DLC, where it's like a very small contained area with a shit ton of bosses, like, I'll buy it. I'll be hyped to do it.
I love that.
Or a boss rush DLC.
Unless the bosses are fucking even worse than the main game, as they usually
are. The bosses are kind of bad.
I have a problem with enemy design as well, actually.
So I want to talk about that, because I also have a problem with the enemy design.
What is your problem?
Do the enemies get more, like, do the enemies move more away from the art? Like, for example, the birds with the blades, like, they were cool. They fucked my shit up. I thought
that was
really
fucking
neat.
Sick, dude. I love those things.
Yeah, totally.
They're not that fun to fight. Like, the design is so amazing that I don't care at all.
Yeah, and they're not fun to fight in a way, but in another way, they're also fun to fight, because it's, like, not as easy as dodge and slash, right? Like, you have to time things. You have to do some spacing. You have to, like, pay more attention to the tells. As I was getting into certain parts of the game, I found more dudes where it's like, this guy does a charge attack, this guy has a club, this guy has a sword, this guy has a bow. And it's like, if I see my Lord of the Rings army miniature set again, I'm gonna lose it, because it's like, I can't do, this guy's a shield, this guy's a bow, this guy's a spear. Like, I just need more variety in the enemy design. Like, in Dark Souls 3 especially, I felt like this was a little bit lacking. But I think, like, in Bloodborne and Sekiro, it's extremely good. The enemy, like, variety of, like, the different movesets and some of the different, even though there's a lot of them in Sekiro are people, they're like humanoids or whatever, right? They're different. And I'm so far, I'm not, I did find some really cool monks in Elden Ring that did some cool attacks, but I'm looking for a little bit more juice in, like, the enemies that isn't just like, this guy has a giant club, learn the time.
What, you want me to spoil?
No, I'm just saying that I think that if that is the case, I will be mildly disappointed. So one way or another, I mean, you can say if you are disappointed with it or not.
Yeah,
but
I'm disappointed.
I think that, like, I want, but then again, let's all be super cognizant that if it's the same dodge and attack or whatever, but the enemy is some really cool looking shit, it kind of doesn't matter.
Like the bear.
Yeah.
I love fighting bears. I was like, this is sick.
Yeah.
Well, my problem with the bears is they have, like, the one really difficult attack where they, I think they, like, fucking jump up and land on you with their belly or something. And that one is, like, so difficult compared to everything else they do that get a bit frustrated. The issue I have with enemies is that they there's a couple. Well, one is like the variety. There's a bit of a lack of variety. It's not that bad. It's not like fucking Breath of the Wild where you fight the same enemy that you fought in the first hours until the end of the game.
Jeez.
But it's like the first few, if you explore like Limgrave, and basically like a couple more big areas, then you've probably seen most of the enemies that are in the game. The problem I have is that a lot of the enemies are just designed in really unfun ways, or they're very R1 spammy. Like the normal dudes, you can just like mash R1 and the whole groups, you just take them down. It almost like they went the opposite way of Dark Souls 2, where Dark Souls 2 had a lot of bigger enemies with a ton of poise. You couldn't really do much to them. This game has like a ton of little mooks that get hit stun every time you hit them, so you can like mash R1 and just kill them.
I don't mind that as much because I think they did that for the horse, because it feels real good.
That's where
I might differ from you two on this, because I kind of like the direction they went with the enemies in this game as compared to previous Dark Souls games. Because yes, they are.
The second one?
Because they are exactly what you're saying. They are less like mid-bossy. They're more like little mooks that you mow down. But damn, it feels good to get on that horse and you're just flying through that map and you're just hacking the shit out of everyone as you go.
In the dungeons. Right?
Yeah, the dungeons. I think that's the issues. Like on the overworld, I actually really like what they did with the enemies, where you can just kind of mow them down on the horse. And because imagine you're trying to traverse the overworld, and every 5 seconds you got to fight a mid boss, and it's just like that's that issue. But I do agree on the dungeons though. I thought a lot of the dungeons, like I just avoided the dungeons. I didn't do any of them that I could avoid. I just went from main checkpoint to main checkpoint as much as I could. I didn't do dungeons or caves.
I need to.
And the
do
ones that I did do that.
That's how I'm going to be playing now.
Yeah, and the ones that I did do that, I found the enemies to be kind of annoying. Not like difficult, but obnoxious in a way. It's like, okay, now I got a shield counter. Okay, take this guy out. I got to run away. Shield counter, take this guy out, run away. That sort of thing.
Have you guys fought the plants?
I can't remember.
Plant or many? I fought many plants.
I fought the tree. There's a tree you fight.
Yeah, there's like big plant enemies that shoot poison clouds. Those enemies are the worst thing on the fucking planet. I swear to God, I hate them. Because like they shoot clouds, you don't want to get poisoned, so you're like standing there, you're waiting for the cloud to dissipate, then you run in, slash a bit, they fucking spew the poison again, you fucking run away again. It's so frustrating. Oh my God.
What about those things in the swamp? I can't even describe what the hell they are. They're like
the little like arteries that shoot little.
Yes,
they're like little hearts or something, or like little pods that shoot like the dust.
Yes, exactly that type of stuff.
But that's the opposite problem, because you're just sitting there and hacking at them forever and they're not dying. Like that's the opposite problem of the little mooks, where you can mow them down with the horse.
Yeah, and I think those are things that are supposed to, like most of the time when I see enemies like that, it's to do one thing that I would then navigate around the second time and never fight. They're not there to be. They're not there to be fought over and over and over.
Guys,
I think you're there to be experienced once.
Guys, have you been to the underground area, like the big one?
Yes. I assume so. It's big.
No, I haven't. I've been in underground, but I don't think it's the same one.
Have you fought those like clay golems or whatever?
I think so.
They're little dudes with spears that take little damage and roll around. They come in big groups. Yep.
They did the like cartwheels?
Yeah, they did the cartwheels, and they just like
found those dudes.
They always appear in like groups of fucking 20 enemies. I swear to God, like, there's like 3 people that fought them normally. Like they take forever. They're so slow. They're just not fun to fight, but they litter them all over the place.
I'm just not like, all you've done, Boghog, has made me more excited to go back and finish this game, but not necessarily to enjoy it. Like maybe I'll enjoy it, but just to understand, because one of the things that I'm very cognizant of is like, I'm agreeing with you on a lot of stuff. So I think I may end up where you're sitting. But I think the biggest thing about the Souls games that I found growing up and talking to other people about it is one person will say, oh yeah, this boss fight like sucked, and I'll be like, what? Oh, I don't even remember that boss. Like I beat that boss in like 2 tries. And so I think like there's this huge variance. And I think part of it's like, what level are you? Like, are you level 80 or level 50? The other part of it is what weapon are you using? Are you using a bleed weapon and some other stuff? And the last part of it is like, are you really truly focusing, or are you just trying to get to the next thing? Like, are you like paying attention, I guess is a better way to put it.
I was wondering about
Boghog, like your brain, like you pay attention to stuff in a lot of ways, and you're like, what is going to be the thing? Like, I want to extract a good combat experience out of these 5 guys. And I think some people might want to, and I think some people might die 10 times to him, like I do, and then go back and then finally kill him the first time and go, man, that was fun. Never doing that again. Like, I'm never going to go fight these idiots again. It took me way too long, and it wasn't very fun to do it. But now I'm going to like just skip that and move on and do something else. And I'm like super curious because it's one of those things. This is one of those game series that I feel like experience differs so much from the difficulty standpoint. But I think your points on the dodgeability of attacks and like learning an enemy and learning how to like fight an enemy and all that stuff, they're just going to have to stand across all difficulties, because it doesn't matter how difficult it is if you are truly intentionally trying to fight something and have to fight.
Yeah. It's weird because like I've spoken about like all these flaws to some people, and they're like, "Yeah, I totally agree. I still love the game though." That's a lot of the thing that happens. Some guys like, "I agree with everything you said, just completely disagree with your conclusions." I'm like, okay. I don't know.
Well, the thing about it though is these days, because of the review environment, if you criticize a game, that means you want to boycott it, you want to find the developers, you want to put them in jail, and you want to start a movement against the game rather than, hey, I like the game, but here are some things they could improve on, or here's some issues I'd like to see other games to capitalize on. So I've been in that boat many, many times. As far as, like, people can't hear criticism because they think you want to start some sort of boycott or something. It's like, no, I think some people have some issues with the game.
Yeah. I think some people like Joseph Anderson normalized that, because I was like complaining about it for months, and people are like, "Oh, what the fuck is this guy talking about?" But then when Joseph Anderson released this video, it was so validating, because like he's talking about all these issues I had. I've been like screaming like a madman for months, and he's like putting them succinctly, eloquently, even pointing out some stuff I didn't notice. I'm like, holy shit! Finally, someone preaching, the gospel.
And I think what's going to happen with Elden Ring is, this would be a great topic too. To get your guys' thoughts on, is there's that initial release where it's don't you say a word, don't you say one word, but 2 years from now it's going to be kind of like a thing. There's going to be like a little hipstery type thing where now, is Elden Ring kind of overrated, and that sort of space clears up, then people can start being more objective in their criticism.
I think a big part of it is, Boghog, I think you were expecting something out of the game, right? Yeah. Like, I think you were expecting something out of the game. And I think a lot of folks, maybe not a lot of folks, the folks who I know personally who have played the game, like my little friends group, whatever, which is not a lot of folks, it's like 5 people. We were just trying to figure out, like, what is this going to be? Very like, what are we going to even see here? And I think the biggest thing is, like, a lot of your criticisms are fantastic, and I think if they had made the game that you wanted them to make, it would be a better game than Elden Ring.
Oh, shucks.
Right?
It's true. Hope so. I don't know.
No, it's true. Everything you've said makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense, and I think I could sit here and probably give you 20 reasons why Dodonpachi could be a better game too, even though it's like, there's this pedestal that it sits on that you can't fuck with Dodonpachi.
Any of those reasons.
Mark is fuming, dude.
Other than the bees.
Yeah, Mark is fuming.
Remove the bees. I'll accept that. But other than that.
There we go. Fuck the bees. No, but I think the question left on the table is, who should pick this game up? Who should play this game? Who is
that
this
is a
game
good
for?
Question.
And is it worth going through, Boghog, how many hours? 100 for you?
Yeah, 110 or something. I don't know.
Is it, at the end of the day, criticism and all, was it worth your 110 hours? Let me ask you that.
No, for me, no. But like, if you're looking for a really good combat game like Neo, or even like the older Dark Souls games, I think
back up. You're talking about a good combat game. I just Elden Ring, like, against everything.
But what I'm saying is, like, it depends on what you value. Because, for example, I think a lot of people just really like how it feels. Because the aesthetics are, like, amazing. They're some of the best shit ever. I like them even more than Bloodborne, because, the Bloodborne is, like, kind of monotonous.
I agree. Well, I like these graphics a lot more in Bloodborne as well.
It's cool. Okay, it's cool. But, like, there's it's just grimdark, it's grimdark the entire way. Yeah. But Elden Ring is like a nice mix where it's like this high fantasy stuff, like fancy witches and fucking wizards, and then you have this horror like in the back. And it's a really cool balance. And the graphics are amazing, the art design is amazing. And I think people just like how it feels overall, even if like they see the issues with combat and like, whatever. But I played it mostly as like an action RPG, so for me it really didn't feel like worth it. I mostly played it like to after a while out of spite and out of like a duty to complete it, you know.
How many hours in before you decided you were like beholden to completing it, but you didn't want to? Like for me, Dodonpachi, it was about 30 hours in, and I decided I had to do a 1-all on Dodonpachi, even though I fucking hated it.
I think it was like 30 hours I was loving it. Then at 50 hours I was like getting annoyed, and then at 70 hours I was like, okay. this fuck is. And then by the end I was just
fair enough.
I was seething. I was smashing my keyboard like a gorilla, you know.
What about the very last boss? Was that for you something that felt like a conclusion to the game, and you felt like you put the controller down, you were like, you know what, I hated the game.
I don't want to talk about the last boss. I'm gonna drop some slurs, dude, if you get me to talk about that fucking boss. So no, not as I don't want to talk about that thing. It's satisfying in the sense that it's kind of like a really epic and well-designed boss. Well, not well-designed, but like they put a lot of effort into it. They put like the art designers did a good job, the programmers did a good job, but man, is it so fucking annoying to fight. Holy shit. It's one of the most annoying fights in this whole series for me. Okay.
So Mark, what do you think? Like, are you gonna, based on what you've heard, and like, because I think like Boghog, you had a lot of positive things to say about the game. I think you're saying as a character action game, or as an action game specifically, it doesn't meet the mark. But to me, what that's coming across to me, like as like a person listening to you talk about this, is like, hey, if you value the badass graphics, if you love the sound design, the fucking like the surround sound, which by the way, surround sound in that game seems okay, but I felt like in Bloodborne it was maybe a little bit better, just the fidelity of the 360 degrees. I play on a surround sound setup, so it's really important to me.
They really nailed that like ghostly, otherworldly feeling there more.
Yeah, and so you're saying like the enemy designs are beautiful, if not maybe a little bit rote. You're saying like the bosses are beautiful. No, I'm not going anywhere with it. I think I'm just saying like if you're gonna pick this game up, keep in mind that it isn't the best, maybe to your point, it isn't the best action game only experience. But if you want something that's of this quality in the other realms, like the realms that you mentioned, it's still going to be very hard to find a game that gets even close.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like I'm not talking as like from a general perspective. I realize that my perspective is niche and kind of like limited. But yeah, most people probably will just like overlook the issues, no problem.
I think you can be niche about multiple things. You're niche about gameplay, action gameplay, and I think being niche about graphics and sound design is equally as important, and something that doesn't talked about nearly enough, because a lot of like reviewers say like the graphics are good, technically maybe, or like the sound design is great, but they don't talk about enough about, like, I think Breath of the Wild reviewers started to get it, because like the sound is so sparse, the music is so sparse. In order to say anything about it, you had to say something meaningful about it, because you couldn't just say Breath of the Wild music is good. You had to say, well, wait, there's music in the game? And then you had to start thinking about it. Oh yeah, there is music, but it just comes in specific moments when you're doing the open world stuff. Same thing happens in Elden Ring. Like Elden Ring, you get those audio cues where you're like, oh, there's a bug nearby. There's a fucking bug somewhere. Like I heard the bug sound. There's a dung beetle fucking somewhere, and I'm gonna find him or not.
How do you feel about the music in the game? Because the other games are completely quiet most of the time.
What do you mean?
Because Dark Souls, it's just complete silence until you get to a boss. But in all the Elden Ring, there's like ambient music, and then every time an enemy notices you, there's
Yeah, I think it was necessary from an open world standpoint to keep things from getting too dry and like giving the rise and fall. Like they'll go away. If you run away from an enemy, the music will come back down. But and we can get into another like hours discussion probably about music in these games. But like, no, I get it. But I think it's like if you're a person who's like playing these other kind of games and you're into that kind of cinema. You know what I mean? Like just the cinema of these games. Like the first time you reached Anor Londo, the first time you saw the city in Dark Souls 3 and you're like up on the fucking mountain, the first time in Bloodborne you come around the corner and it's that like drop down where it's like that there's that castle and the cathedral and all that shit. Like that stuff still hasn't been done better to me, like than any other series. There's just such a big like gap between Elden and Souls and Born and whatever and shit.
Yeah. And it's not afraid to be fucking weird. Like the game has so much weird shit in it. Like, did you guys see the singing bat just a random bat that like sings.
No, but everyone keeps talking about this fucking operatic bat that I need to see
it's
now.
It's just a random fucking bat like sitting under a bridge or something and singing opera. You hear like, what the fuck is this? You look around and you see just a group of bats. Like, huh? And there's all kinds of weird shit like that in the game. You like stumble onto these weird encounters, and it feels really interesting because the world keeps surprising you.
And I think those surprises, like the pigs or something in Bloodborne, or like other little things, it feels like, at least I hope so, I've found that there seem to be different, it's more of a variety of little tiny surprises sprinkled around, and they are still fresh and new and don't feel like Dark Souls 4 that much, like to your point on the bat and stuff like that. So I hope that continues, because I think like if I were to say, if you were to ask me, Mark, why would you recommend or not recommend Elden Ring? I would say I would agree with Boghog on all the tightness. I think it feels looser. It doesn't feel as tight. It feels a little kind of it feels just looser. Like it doesn't feel as tightly designed. Like the Crucible Knight fight got me back into like, oh fuck, I have to parry, because if you try to run away in Estus, you're just gonna get stabbed in the face. Like it made me parry, and I was like, oh wow, these games can be Sekiro if they want to be, and they can be really easy if they want to be. And I couldn't figure out where, because that was so much. I spent 6 hours of my 30 hours fighting that one fucker. But until I realized that parry was the answer. When I found the answer, I was like, oh, and I spent 90 minutes and killed the guy. But I think like if you are on the fence about the game as a character action game, and you're really expecting the next level of like action combat, you want it to be evolved, you want it to be dynamic and bespoke, maybe fair to some extent, this doesn't seem to be hitting all of those marks throughout the entire journey. Yeah. But it feels like if you're just looking for more weird, more shit, more weapons, more abilities, just more of everything, including more downtime, yeah. Right? It seems to hit all of those marks. And I think that's kind of it. It's like, if you're used to Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, it's not that. Dude, it's not a Souls game. It's not a Souls game.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's like, yeah, if you're into that kind of stuff, if you just want more of everything, it's pretty much like the perfect game.
I would say if you're one of those Breath of the Wild kids, like if you're really into Breath of the Wild and you're really into like Legend of Zelda and stuff, to me it seems like a natural sort of evolution of that style of design. Yeah. It feels like that way to me. Like when I was playing it, I'm like, oh, this is like Zelda but better. This is just Zelda to the next level.
When you get an item, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. I thought so.
I think.
What were your final thoughts on it so far, or what are your thoughts on the final of our discussion? I suppose, as far as where do you think its strong points are, what do you think its weak points are, those types of things.
Me?
No, Aktane.
Oh. Okay.
I don't think it's as good as Breath of the Wild, person, but that's a different thing. I think that there's. I'll tell you real quick why not. Because I think Breath of the Wild, when it engages in mechanics, there are simple systems to understand and you get them quickly. Cooking, got it. I know how it works. Physics, got it. I know how it works. If it's an electric thing, it's going to be an electric thing. If it's wooden, it's going to catch on fire. You get it. In Elden Ring, it's like still clunky. Like it's not that kind of nothing about Elden Ring seems elegant. Right? Everything seems to be like in your face and like crazy. It's like Elden Ring is like the Marvel versus Capcom of Dark Souls. It's like OP, but at the same time, very difficult. It's like flamboyant, but at the same time, reserved.
It's still a bit like a Western open world game, just with good combat.
It's like, and I think like the open world puzzles are not puzzles. Some of them are, but most of them, it's like, this witch is pointing over here. I better go over there. I'm going to find something. And you might find something and you might be surprised and you might not, but it's not like, so I don't think that it succeeds as an open world game from what I've seen. I think that it succeeds as its own thing. And I think where it does its best work is like the closest you can get to like putting more content in a Souls game in such a way that you can experience it very, very differently than other people. Because like even in Dark Souls 3 or 2, you maybe skip a boss or whatever. But like Boghog, you said it. I paused there, so I don't remember exactly how you said it. But it's like, what do you say? Segment breaking. That's it. That's where it's sequence breaking. That is where it takes the Breath of the Wild formula in the perfect way. And I think it's like That's where it's smart. That's where it's interesting. I hope it continues as I continue to play the game. That's, I think, its strongest point is that, not that it's an open world game, but that you can tackle things in a different order. I think its weakest points is that it hides everything. Stop hiding shit. Just fucking tell me where to fucking go to do shit.
I do feel like that kind. As an action player, that's if you're like an RPG player, if you like exploring worlds, that's good. But if you're an action player, it feels like you're punished for exploration because the next boss will just be a joke. It feels like, okay, that was nothing. Like if you find bosses in a really weird order, or if you just get some really powerful items early on, you can just trivialize most of the game, and by the end, it kind of stabilizes towards the final few bosses. But yeah, otherwise, it kind of has like a very schizophrenic, like a random difficulty curve.
So I'll weigh in on the pros. I think maybe I might need to defend Elden Ring a little bit more than you two. I felt like it's my favorite open world game that I've played. It's the only one that I've been able to sit through for any period of time, and it's the only one I've ever considered completing, because Breath of the Wild, you get me 10 hours in, I'm like, it's getting a little boring here. It's getting a little boring for me. Elden Ring, yes, there are some artificial elements to the way they make the world, but the fact that you can just hop on that horse and go fuck some shit up real quick, that is really refreshing to me. And the fact that you can get around the map pretty easily, I really like that. I feel like the game, it's kind of like they sat down and said, okay, open world, it's a thing, but for the homies, let's get this so you can get around it if you want to. And I that's what I appreciate about Elden Ring. It's not like MGS5 where it's making you fly in a chopper and then you have to run across empty land for an hour.
Oh, that'd be kind of sick, though. You summon a dragon, though? Come on.
But every single time you fast travel, you need to fly in a chopper and you have to watch the cutscene every time. But
what are you talking about? You're going to have like, what would it be?
Own skateboard.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be sick. No, I hear you. Yeah.
So I felt like, I think the reason why it works so well and why it gets such great reviews is because if you're just kind of like playing mainstream games and then you pop this in, it's like, holy shit, it's a real game. This is crazy. This is like, it never gets too westerny feeling. You know what I mean? As far as you're just, you know what I'm trying to put words to it, but it's not artificial, I guess. It feels like they're giving it their best. It's not perfect, but they're putting it all out on the line. And I think that's probably why it's been received so well.
It doesn't feel formulaic as much.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And yeah, the graphics, I love the graphics. It is by far my favorite Souls game I've played so far. I like it the most of all of them, by far.
How about easy modes? How about easy and hard modes?
Yes, that's a great...
What do you think about whether it needs an easy or hard mode or whatever?
No, absolutely not. I think that the best games don't have these kind of modes, and I think especially like for an open world game, you can't have. I don't think that you should have it at all. I think that an open world game, that's the whole point of it. The whole point of an open world game is you walk left to the catacombs, and like I did, and you go fuck, and then you try walking right, and you go
reverse boss order like Super Metroid.
Yeah, and I think like your willingness to grind to get a little more stamina or a little more, just that edge over the next boss, I think is how you do it. If you think the game is too hard, like you can mitigate that in smaller ways around the game. But I don't think that these games need difficulties like that. I just think the game's too big to do that. Like, it doesn't make that much sense. I think, if anything, if you want to talk about easy hard mode, I think like this whole conversation about summoning and using the summons and using the NPC characters and boss fights and stuff like that, that is it. Like, there's your easy, medium, hard mode. It's localized to a boss fight, but I think it's well done there, where you obviously know that having a second person is going to make things a little bit easier. And if you want to solo that hoe, like, go for it.
I think it would be a crime against humanity if they put in an easy mode. And here's why. Because I cannot tell you how much I enjoy imagining these poor game journalists who can barely play, and they're tasked with, buddy, you need to beat Elden Ring in a week for your review. And the guy's like just getting wrecked. Sweating. And he's like banging his head against the wall. He's like, God damn it. Like, just the beauty of that. It's like the one game series that makes journalists play it. I just... it's too delicious. It's too delicious ever lose. We need it to continue. In fact, I would love a hard mode, though. I think that would be hilarious.
Well, there always is, right? Isn't there New Game Pluses? Oh, is there not a New Game Plus in Elden Ring?
I have no idea. But it would be hilarious if there was like a hard mode.
It's just mostly easier.
I think it would be really funny if there was a hard mode and then like the true ending of the game's story is revealed at the end of hard mode. And then the journalists not only have to beat the game, they got to go through it again in hard mode to get the true ending. Oh, that would be beautiful.
You gotta fucking have a bottle of journalist tears on your desk to cheer you up every time you're having a bad day.
But I just know the reason why they want easy mode. Here's why okay, more seriously though, the reason why they want easy mode isn't because they think it's whatever. It's because it makes their job easier, because they want to cruise through it and breeze up the review in a week and call it a day. They don't want to learn the game.
Where did this even come from? Who is asking for an easy mode?
The journalists, the gaming journalists want an easy mode to make their jobs easier so they can just breeze through it in a week.
I've never even heard, like, is this like a documented thing? Like, are players asking for easier modes? Like,
if you read reviews, like journalists are always complaining about, we need an easy mode so we don't have to play the game. I think
that conversation happened, it was really big in like 2014 or so. Now it's a lot smaller. Now people kind of.
It came up with Elden Ring too. It did come up.
It did come up, but like it's even a smaller minority. Because I think people just like realize, okay, we can just like cheese shit.
Yeah,
cheese shit.
But they had to learn to play the game. That's what I'm saying. They had to learn. Yeah. They couldn't and didn't. Yeah, the game that you really like, Resurrection, Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection. There's this huge review of the game where the guy can hardly play it, and he's just complaining about the game not having an easy mode. That's his review.
Yep.
Which I think is a good review for 90% of people who are going to pick up that game, maybe 95% of people. And that's why those reviews still work, right? Because it's not for the people who are like ready to dig in and like fucking spend 100 hours or whatever, like understanding that game. And I think like a lot of these journalists,
do we always have to cater to that?
They beat Sekiro, and Sekiro is fucking hard.
Right.
Like, Sekiro, there's no way around it. Like, there are some cheese strats, yes, on certain bosses where you can like do some glitches and stuff, but even with all that stuff, like, I'll defend the journalists and say like the same journalist that beat Sekiro is the same journalist on staff that plays the hard games. It's a thing now.
They literally had to. That's why this is great. Yeah. No, this is great.
That's why
they have to hire. They literally, these outlets literally have to hire a dedicated Bloodborne reviewer to cover the games. Because the game, but if you allow that easy mode in, that dude loses his job. You want people to start losing their jobs here? No easy mode.
I think it's healthy overall as well. Because it just opens people's minds up to fucking difficult games. They're so important. Like that's one of the biggest contributions of Dark Souls 1, I think. Because before that, it's kind of like people, easy, difficult, I don't care. But now it's like they recognize that difficulty itself has a lot of value when you're playing the game. As like artistic value almost. One thing I wanted to say, I want an easy and hard mode, not because like I want anyone to have an easy, but because I'm annoyed by how diegetic From Software are with their games. Like everything has to be justified, everything has to be built into the world. But I just want a fucking boss rush mode in the menu. That's all I want. That's. But
they did that with Sekiro, right? Didn't they figure it out?
No, I don't believe so.
They added one. But they added boss rush in Sekiro.
Maybe later on, right?
Yeah, later on. I'm talking about
look
like,
into
I thought
this
they like did
immediately.
I'm checking it right now.
Okay.
I'm actually not sure.
But yeah, I wouldn't want an easy mode, but I would love extra modes, like a boss rush mode and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they did it. They did boss rush, but the point is that you're gonna get what you want. You'll get it. They'll do it.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be less stuck up their ass and just give me some modes, from the menu, just.
Yeah, that is a weird thing with character action games that a lot of other genres and RPGs that a lot of other genres don't have issues with, is even with character action games. Like, they don't give you modes. They're like, no, you have to play through the story mode every time. You're not getting boss rush mode. You're not getting arena modes and stuff as much.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are missed opportunities. Like, I totally agree. I mean, they're not for everyone, but I think they're missed opportunities. Just throw them in your game. Just throw the boss rush mode in your game. It's not. There's really no reason not to do it.
Yes,
I think this game would be hilarious because aren't there like 50 bosses in this game? So it'd be like, just fucking. Like, I don't even know.
That's what would be awesome, though. I would just play that mode. I don't even know if I'd play the real game after that. I just play boss rush mode all the time.
Yeah, same.
Well, but that's actually part of the problem that you guys just answered the question of why they don't have it in the game.
No, what about us?
Yeah, how come the mages get their fun? How come the mages get their fun? We don't,
Yeah,
how come
no, you don't get your fun because if you can practice all the bosses and then like enjoy the game, it's like you said, Boghog. They're sticking to their script. They want you to discover this boss 30 hours in. Once you not have any practice, not having seen it or learned what it looks like, they want you to. Oh, the big intro when the boss comes in and like breaks down the castle over the.
I don't agree, but that is why they do it. I don't agree with the choice, but that is why they do it, because they want you to, they look at it like some kind of novel or something. They want it in context. They want to set you up. They want you to feel the majesty of the boss fights and everything.
So I think that's why down the road with Sekiro they just threw it in there, because I think they'll probably do it with this game too. It's like, they'll. After like X amount of months, everybody knows what the bosses are like, and the mythos has exploded, and like everything is cool now, and like there's no surprises left. They'll be like, have your boss. I guess one thing we didn't cover at all, but
go
like
ahead.
I can't cover and don't want to cover, which is PvP. So you guys can keep talking about that, because
I have no idea.
I never do Souls PvP. Fuck.
I don't
Souls
either.
PvP. No.
Well, I was in
Maybe
I have one little story about PvP where I got into one. I was forced into one. And I owned the guy, and I was like, maybe this is a career for me. And the guy was like way more. It was actually really funny. The guy was way more level than I was. You could tell he had like all these items, but the dude's fighting pattern was so static. I just backed up and kept backstabbing him. I was like, bro, you got to mix up your timings here and stuff. You're doing the classic noob strat of like finishing all your strings. Like that's.
Are you
fighting
sure
game.
that was an NPC invader?
I don't know. I think it was a dude though, because he was like teabagging me.
Well, actually, NPCs don't do that. NPCs do mix up their shit. So maybe Mark's.
Well, the guy was like doing human-y type. The guy was doing human-y type stuff too, like trolling
like
type
running
stuff.
around in a circle, not running towards you. NPCs always take a beeline for you. That's how you know that it's an NPC. They literally just run at you. But
it seemed like a dude. He seemed like he was teabagging me and all this sort of stuff. So I think
we're gonna catch up with you in like 6 months when you're talking about Elden Tekken being like, this is it. This is the game.
I don't think
I figured it out.
Yeah,
I don't think so. But
1 and 2 was really janky. It wasn't one of the jankiest games I ever played. I don't know. It's kind of fun when you're like fucking around, but I don't want to put too much time into it.
But the $1 million question for you all now is, where do you rank this in your Souls series ranking personally? For me, this is my favorite one. I like because the horse, and I like the fights for the most part. I like the combat. I like it. They're pushing a little bit more towards character action, but I like the combat even more than Sekiro, because Sekiro I think is a little too parry heavy for my taste. I liked it. It's my favorite Souls game by far. But how about you guys?
What do you think, Bog?
I honestly, I don't know. I have such massively mixed feelings for it. I think probably like near the bottom, next to Dark Souls 2. I'm not sure which is better. I got to replay Dark Souls 2 at some point. But yeah,
the second to last. Is that right?
Yeah, second to last, or maybe even last. I don't know.
I think from what I've played, it has potential to either be number 2 or like number 4. So if it keeps going like it was going, I think it could be as good.
What's number
but
one?
Not probably better.
Bog, what's your number one? We forgot that context. What's your number one, Bog?
Dark Souls 1 because like nostalgia factor. Dark Souls 3 in terms of like how well designed it is, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, for me it's 3, and I'll put Bloodborne as like an addendum because I think they're about equally as good to me. But I think I'll still pick Dark Souls 3 over Bloodborne. They're just different games.
Oh, if Sekiro counts, Sekiro is my favorite because it's just like it was so.
Sekiro counts.
Smooth. Yeah, but it was so buttery smooth. Like I never felt frustrated playing Sekiro. It was like fucking.
Not true for me. I thought Sekiro was like all the problems I thought Sekiro would have when it came out were all the problems I felt while playing it. So I was ready for them. I was like, this is going to be a rigid. It's going to be a rigid experience where it's like Mike Tyson's Punch Out but 3D, and it is that. It is exactly that. There's you know the solution or you don't. And if you don't know the solution, get fucked.
I don't like it because of the level design more than the combat.
The reason I can't put Bloodborne...
I hate the stupid Spider-Man mechanics.
I know. I like that shit, by the way. I think that shit's tight, but like whatever. I also like traversal and stuff, but like I think Bloodborne and Sekiro, because you have to like grind items. I don't like grinding items. Like Bloodborne, the blood vials are stupid. Like just like if I respawn in Bloodborne, give me 20 vials. There's really no reason why you're gonna make me waste 20 minutes of my time fighting dudes in the courtyard to get my 20 vials so I can run past them the next time and go to the boss and fight the boss. I'm not gonna do it with one vial. What the fuck the point? Like you're forcing me to do nothing. That's why it can't be number one. My number one is Dark Souls 3. I think this could be as good as Bloodborne. I don't think it'd ever be as good as Dark Souls 3, and there's two big reasons why. I think the first reason is that
so both you guys have Dark Souls 3 as your one.
No, one.
Oh, you put Sekiro. Yeah, I forgot.
Or Sekiro. Yeah, Sekiro is one. The Dark Souls 1.
We're close enough to one. Yeah, Mark's right though. We're pretty much on the same. Oh, you like Dark Souls 1 maybe a little more than 3 though, right? Boghog in a way, like.
But he said nostalgia. So do we count? I mean, you can kind of put an asterisk next to that.
Hey, Dark Souls 1 is on Switch, so I mean, I can't play Elden Ring on a plane. So no, I'm just kidding. But but I don't think that it can ever get as good as Dark Souls 3 for me, because I never once in my Dark Souls 3 experience was like, what am I doing? What do I need to be doing? Where do I go ever? And that's not a fun place to be ever in a game. Like, it's just not like, it's like it's just like having to stop and be like, am I going to play this game for an hour and have a good time or an okay time? I never felt that in 3. Like, I just forged ahead. I just kept going. I saw boss fight after boss fight, enemy after enemy of dope shit.
And the bosses just get better and better and harder and harder. It's so smooth.
And they get better and better and harder and harder. And the DLC's rock solid. So I don't think it can ever be that good, because I never once in that game felt like, what do I, am I gonna have fun going here? I don't know. I'm not sure. So
I'm looking up.
But if it goes Boghog's way, I may have to rank it towards the bottom.
Yep. All right.
Well, I'm looking it up just out of curiosity. So Dark Souls 3, and I'm specifically looking Metacritic up to see kind of what the ethos say. So Dark Souls 3 is 89 on Metacritic. Isn't Elden Ring a perfect score on Metacritic? Oh no, it's 96 on Metacritic.
Jeez. Oh my god.
Dark Souls 3, 89. That's a travesty.
I think people were just kind of burnt out.
So for the Polygon gave it a 70. That's one big reason why. So for the Polygon, the same people who refused to review Star Fox Zero and instead just made a whole post complaining about the movement controls. But so do you think among the Dark Souls fans out there, like the dedicated Dark Souls people, do you think it'll shake out to being the greatest in the series, or do you think the Dark Souls fans will be like, nah, 3 is still better or whatever?
I don't think it matters. I don't think it's an important question. I think they're all going to play it.
It's interesting discussion.
I don't think it is, because I think like it's just a very different game. It's like trying to put Sekiro next to Dark Souls 3. Like they're
exactly.
They're just trying to do different things. Nah, they're different games. You can't compare Breath of the Wild to Link to the Past.
Yes, you can.
You just can't.
Sure you can. They're in the same series.
I think it'll have one of the longest lifespans when it comes to these games. I'm not sure how I think people will play it the most and do the most shit with it the longest time.
It'll be the most interesting, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be like the next Skyrim? Like it'll take Skyrim's place as like that RPG people play forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And
that's Grand Theft Auto 5, and nothing's going to ever take its place. The Grand Theft Auto 5 will still be here in 10 years from now, unless the 6 comes out.
You don't think Elden Ring could do that? I don't know. I could see it.
No.
I could see Elden Ring doing it.
No,
I don't even understand why people play Skyrim that much. I like that's beyond my comprehension. Like sports games fans, I have no clue who that is. I never met a single sports game fan besides like racing. Just beyond my
You don't think it'll develop? I don't know. I get the feeling Elden Ring will be one of those games where people just talk about it for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, they'll talk about it because it's an interesting video game, but it's not going to like have legs. Like,
you don't think so?
That kind of like Grand Theft Auto legs. No,
I'm putting my bet down. I think it will have legs because I don't think
they'll have DLC, but that's it.
No, because I don't think there's going to be anything that comes along that hits these many boxes for this many people this well for a long time.
Paradise 2, dude. Trust me, the biggest game in the universe coming up.
So I think I'm going long on Elden Ring. I think it'll be around a long time, and people talk about it for a long time, and it'll be a big deal, like Skyrim for a long time, where people are, oh, Skyrim, I play Skyrim.
Maybe
Skyrim.
you're right. Yeah,
I think it'll be Elden Ring for years.
I think it'll be a big among Dark Souls, like Souls type of fans, but not that big among mainstream players. So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Oh.
I think based on what Boghog was saying about it too, like how hard it gets later and like how it's kind of wonky. I don't think that it's going to, like, I don't think that gamers, like, I don't think it's going to be a Minecraft. I don't think it's going to be a GTA 5. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be that Souls game.
No, like Skyrim. Skyrim's more of what I'm going for here.
Skyrim's
where it's like that.
Skyrim is like, dude, Skyrim is, to me, is like the thing that's on everything. No one's playing Skyrim right now, and no one's talking about Skyrim right now. Like, Skyrim came and went.
No. Skyrim had such long legs on it. People never shut up about that game.
Yeah.
You'll go for years and years, and people
that.
still talk about Skyrim.
Wish I understood why. Just completely blanking out on that.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Because it's this big old adventure RPG game.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
I think Elden Ring's going to be that. It's going to be that big old fat juicy adventure RPG game people talk about for years.
Skyrim did stuff with like calculations and like procedural generation and like procedural story generation and like all this kind of shit that was brand new that no one really had figured out before then. And Elden Ring does no such thing. It's just a very, very solid game.
But we're in a world where there are no solid games. It's like the diamond.
I agree with you, but I don't. But what you're saying is that it's good because it's quality. I'm saying I agree with you until the next quality game comes out, which will be another FromSoft game, and people are gonna forget about Elden Ring.
Who knew this is where the heated part of the debate would?
I know. where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, that's funny. But I don't think so, because I don't think FromSoft are going to be able to just top Elden Ring so easily. I don't think they will.
No, they'll top it. Oh,
I don't think so. For the homies maybe, but I don't think for the main. This thing is huge. Elden Ring is insanely huge. You'll watch random shit that's not even YouTube or not even video game related, and they're talking about Elden Ring. I'm like,
so that's the
holy
thing. Holy
hell!
Like,
this thing
I
is
think
huge.
you have a
this
sense
game is
of that,
massive.
because
This game is everywhere. And I think it's a real big moment. I don't think FromSoft are going to be able to just walk on and top it so easily. I think it's cute.
Well, you're the reviewer. You got to have a pulse on these things, Mark. So
I hope so.
Yeah, you have a better pulse on it. Because I think for me, it's like I don't see that much Elden Ring stuff over other things where I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Like a lot of people play Elden Ring and stuff like that. But I didn't. I mean, it's great that you're saying that. Like, I'm happy about it. Like, I didn't expect the general public to enjoy this kind of a game.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
To the extent of something like, I just don't think it's true. I think that there's a lot of noise around the game digitally because Souls games always are able to generate this kind of content on their own.
Let me give you a real life
because
example.
They're so interesting
outside of the internet. A real life example. I went to a birthday party for a 1-year-old.
All right, and then we do have to go after this because I'm like way over time.
I went to a birthday party for a 1-year-old. People at a 1-year-old birthday party, these are not gamer type people. These are just, average Idaho citizens. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Elden Ring, and they're talking about it like it blew their mind. They're like, this is the greatest game ever. It's huge. You can do this, you can do that. I mean, the combat, the horses, the this and that, like, it blew these people's minds. And I'm like, this is huge. This is making a real dent. If it's making it to a birthday party in Idaho for a 1-year-old, this has got some real impact that other games in the series just don't have. Like, Dark Souls is cool and all, but I don't think it's hit nearly as hard as this game has.
No, you're right. Like, this is one of their swan songs. I totally agree. Like, and I think I think when they made this big step, this big leap, you're probably right. Like, I maybe didn't expect it to be as big as what you're describing. I really didn't, and that's great for them. I totally, yeah. If it's as big as you're describing, that sounds amazing. Like, it's good. I think it's fascinating that studio has just continued to get better and better and better and better. Right?
Let's look at the sales real quick, just out of curiosity. Elden Ring sales.
Oh, I mean,
13.5 million. Okay. Dark Souls 3 sales. Dark Souls 3. Let's check. 10 million. Okay, so it's not that much more than Dark Souls 3, but Dark Souls 3 has been out way longer than Elden Ring, though, too.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like, it's also, think about this. It's a COVID environment. Everyone's gotten used to like absorbing gaming content in a particular way. People are streaming who never streamed before. People are saying things like me who like jumping on and doing shit like this who never did this stuff before. I think it was poised, to be amazing. I think I'm glad that they nailed it. I'm thinking I nailed enough of it anyway. Nailed enough of it, to take enough of the boxes. I'm with you. I think if you're describing it that way, I think you've made a compelling argument enough for me to say, yeah, you're right. It is kind of a big thing. I don't think it's gonna have like GTA 5 legs or like
GTA 5 is insane though.
We'll see. We'll see though.
On another planet.
It's that George R.R. Martin money that really got him.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he actually did for the game because
he didn't do jack shit.
Yeah, because by the sound of it, he just like wrote the backstory that the ancient backstories. I don't even know.
It's just the name. It's just the name. It's like Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. Tom Clancy's sitting there talking to Ubisoft like, yo, we need to get these shadows correct. We need the stealth system to be right. It's just they throw Tom Clancy's name on the game and it's something.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's probably more Elden Ring discussion to be had, like you said, maybe like in a year from now and stuff like that. I at least want to finish the game because maybe I'll come back and comment on this video like in 6 months.
Enraged.
Like, Boghog was right or Boghog was wrong. The boxes are sick.
We'll have like a proper debate. We'll have a screamy match after that.
No, but I think it's, I'll say something. I think it sounds like it to me, it feels like the game has done enough to win over enough people and piss off Boghog. And it's landed itself in this very precarious spot, which is like the mainstream curse of any game.
Yeah.
The more mainstream the game gets, the more people like it, the more Boghogs there will be saying, wait a minute.
Yeah,
it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, my spiritual brothers, the contrarians popping out, just commenting under. I rarely post comments outside of Mark's vids, and I decided to post comments on Elden Ring. I just like, they got the urge, got the shaking leg, I gotta fucking do this.
I think you make compelling points. So we can.
I guess my final analysis is, I think, ironically, critically, I think it is overrated. I do not think it is the greatest game of all time. I don't think it's the magic bullet to solve all our illnesses. But I think, ironically, critically, it is overrated, but like marketing-wise and like what it is doing for gaming, I think it kind of does live up to the hype. The fact that it's able to take a real game,
it absolutely lives up to the fucking hype.
Penetrate
Dude, if it didn't live up to the hype,
into the mainstream market like this is unreal. It's pretty crazy. So, like, critically, I think it's overrated, but what it is able to achieve as a game is really impressive.
It seems like critically, no one actually critically examined it. Only Boghog did.
Yeah, Boghog is
everyone else was just
critic.
like, oh, okay. I spent 200 hours in Elden Ring, and I gotta tell you, it's good. There's a lot there.
There's a bit of a
day one it comes out 100, and like all the reviewing sites 100 like day one. I'm like, okay, come on guys,
there's a bit of a underground industry of contrarians, and the Joseph Anderson video is really huge. So I'm glad that exists at least, because it really does nail almost all the points I was complaining about in months.
Is he kind of like Matthew Matosis?
Yeah.
But uploads videos?
Yeah.
All right, actually, guys, I gotta bounce here. I'm being summoned. But
all right. Adios,
Aktane.
Wait, before you go, tell people about your channel and tell them about your Kumite series so they watch it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Thank you for the plug, Mark. Yeah, we're continuing to do blind Kumites. Mark has been on a couple, Rolling Gunner, Daimahu. We just did Bat Rider and Garega Stage 1 scoring, which sounds weird, but basically no one scores Garega Stage 1 because those bombs are better spent in other places. Like, so why would you use them?
That's awesome.
So we kind of this is Baph's idea, and we kind of turned it on its head. So that's an interesting one that's going to be on YouTube here shortly. We've got a Fighting Hawk Kumite tomorrow. I expect to hate that game, so I'm really excited. And by tomorrow, whenever you guys see this, it probably won't be tomorrow, but tomorrow. And so we've got more stuff coming. Those will be on YouTube. They're on Twitch under my name if you want to come hang out. Otherwise, I'm also doing a set of quick start guides, like 5-6 minute type guides, just to get you into a game. Like, don't explain the full scoring, don't explain any boss strats, but just how do you get in and understand the basics, like how do you crawl,
game
walk,
plan, right?
That's a good idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay loop is how I think about it. It's like, what's the gameplay loop of DFK? Oh, you get in, you get bees, it clears the bullets, you go red. Don't worry about that. Like, just kind of like where to point a new player.
Make sure to laser the lasers. That's the big tip. The big purple lasers, shoot them with lasers. Yeah.
So I'm hopefully going to do a bunch more of those that are non-cave games because I've done like 3 cave games because people keep asking. But I gotta like spread the love around. So thanks for the plug, Mark.
Thanks so much, my dude. All right, Bog, you definitely need to plug your stuff because it's some exciting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Up.
Yeah, I'm Boghog. I'm a game developer. I made a demo of Mechanical Star Astra. That's currently on hold, but hopefully I'll pick it back up. I'm also helping NG Dev design their latest game, Gunvien.
That one's the one to watch for.
Yeah, that one. We're gonna have like a procedurally generated mode, hopefully, and some fun stuff. And I also did a document, a Shmup 101 kind of design document that I want to kind of shout out a bit. It's on my Twitter.
Where else can people find it? On Twitter? Is there anywhere else?
They can also go to, I think, basically all the big Shmup Discords. Your Discord, Elixir's Discord, or Shmup Junkie's Discord, and it's pinned in the comments, I believe, in the game dev channels. So
awesome.
Yeah, people really like that doc, so I'm gonna shout.
I'll go around and post it to all the Reddits too. So if people want to find it extra places, I'll post it all the Reddits too.
Yeah.
Boghog's going to single-handedly revolutionize all new Shmups coming out. It's all his fault if they don't rock, but that's so awesome that he's doing that.
Well,
it's a great document. It's amazing.
He's my guru. Whenever I need help for Shmup deving questions, he's my number one source.
I read you like a little essay about Dark Souls combat for your review as well. I'm like the shadow hand, puppeteering.
That's right.
Mark's opinions.
That's right. That's right. He owns me.
True secret, like Illuminati, in the back. Okay.
Well, awesome. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave your salty Elden Ring comments. I'm sure we're getting plenty of them, but that's what's fun.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna feel the brunt of that.
Boghog's getting shadow banned from several channels as we speak.
Blacklisted from the industry because like a lot of people and like a lot of professional game developers also just play it nonstop and what the fuck did you just say? Get this guy out. Yeah.
All right, adios, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, see you, Aktane.
See you, Bog.
So thank you to the $5 patrons: Anthony A., Anthony Iodice, Aaron Solis, Asa Davis, Ben, Orgy22, Brian Shiver, Chris Yusufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Cook Some Soup, Corey Mark, Des Audio, Darkwing, Darren Griffin, Disco Stas Leia, DJ420, Praise It, Eric H., FCK, Full Set, Retro Schmupper, Hausu, Kiwi, JLab, JBRPG, Jim Knockham, John Kelly, Jolts, Gameboy Guru, K, K2, Kikoman589, Larridge, Malaise, Mark Toms, Matthew Derekis, Maz, Megadeth859, Minong, Nicolin, Michael Stum, Mitch LY, Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, and Electron, Neon Dagger Games, Googles, Philip Mason, Radocat, Raul, Real Skeen, Riff Mason, Rolf015, Scanline City, 7 Overdose, Shane Sinsiensky, Shmup Junkie, Space Votuus, Stadium Arts, Steve Fiction, Super Snip, The Boot Rex, The Real Ikuzo, The Dirty Screech, The N1, The Old Bensta, TRM, Zugumo, Twilight EX, X20 Spec, and Utakaya. Thanks for watching.